Welcome everybody. Hello. Hope you all had a nice day, nice start in the day, wherever you are. And let's play some Guild Wars together. Or at least talk about it. Because I have some things that I want to try today. I want to do some build crafting live on stream. So let's see how that one goes. But first we will do some strike missions, or raids as they're now called. And I mean, I guess you can always like say it's a cozy Saturday when I start with an old line squad strike. Let's see how it goes. This is not quick play, so should be okay. Hopefully, people are a bit more experienced. Hopefully, not seeing that. But who knows? It could be chaotic. So as usual, if you have any questions, comments, just answers that you need, whatever, let me know, and I will hopefully give you what you want. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Just okay, no CC strategy, whatever that means. Interesting. In the squad chat, it was like that's the strategy that we settled on. No CC strategy on Old Line Squad. Very interesting. No CC. Never CC anything. I'm not sure if that's working. Welcome, Brian. Good morning. Okay, interesting. They never want to CC anything. I'm not sure if that's the smartest way to make this strike mission work. Exactly. You have to CC sometimes. Exactly. Sorry that you cannot see the chat, but I don't want to like I don't know, show everything that people write. Sometimes it's better to not show it. Yeah, that's to say the least. That's interesting. I got in combat and instantly out of combat again. I wanted to show some Alacrity Heal Tempest here. So I'm playing Alacrity Heal Tempest here. I think it's one of the most underrated healers. I don't even know why, because I think it's so good. It really is. It's such a good build. It has so much healing. It is really fun. It is very, very easy in my opinion. Like, I'm pressing one button and apply 6 boons. That's insane amount of value for a lot of players. Like, just pressing 2 buttons and getting like 6 to 10 boons out is crazy. It really is. I really like Tempest. I think I should play more Elementalist in general on stream, but also Tempest, like specifically. I think it's for new players. It's such a good one. It really is. Ooh, this guy is almost dead. That's not good. We want to heal you. I think I could also like solo heal this, to be honest, if we have enough like knowledgeable people. Very good. As usual, if you have any comments, just ask. Yeah, I'm doing well. Glad you're here. Hope you're also doing well. And I mean, I'm just enjoying myself playing some Guild Wars. I have to be honest, I am a little bit like, I'm running a bit out of stream titles because I just don't really know what exactly to do other than just answering some questions on stream. Because I right now, for me, I'm not saying that I'm not enjoying Guild Wars 2 at all anymore. I think that's not the case. It's just that I don't really have any goals in the game anymore. So for me, it's like, what kind of stream title should I do for you that makes it exciting for you to watch, but also something interesting other than just my usual streams that just make some, I don't know, some PvE content, some PvP, world versus world, whatever, and play. So if you have any like ideas, any things that you want to see me do, and I actually enjoy doing as well, that's the two things that need to come together, then let me know. You know, that's I'm always up for that. And I hope we will get soon some news about the upcoming patch with like more content, because that's obviously something that I will hopefully have more like news things to cover and stuff like that. We have to see. But either way, let me know what you think, what you have some ideas, and we will do some build crafting today. That much is for sure. So I am looking at some solo builds, some new ideas for solo builds that I have. And we will have to see if I can make some new stuff work, or if it's just some old boring stuff. What's your favorite story? Now in Living World Season 3, and I'm not really impressed. Yeah, I think like Guild Wars 2 story, for me personally, was at the highest in... I really think the storytelling, or not necessarily the storytelling, but for example, the cinematics and stuff like that were really good in Living World Season 4. So you are almost there. That is, in my opinion, really good. Like Palava Choco and stuff will come there without any spoilers and stuff. I think that is like really good story, like cinematics, storytelling and stuff like that. I think personally Heart of Thorns, especially the ending with Mortomorph, which you already probably had then if you're on Living World Season 3, is actually quite good. I really like how they I don't know, described this character and how they made the cinematics work. I really like this there. But I agree with you, Living World Season 3 was not bad, but it was not like insanely good. I think Living World Season 4 is for most people the best story that they ever written in Guild Wars 2. So I'm not sure if they nailed it with this one or if it's just some nostalgia talking here from me, but I personally really think it's probably the best. Yeah, I would be very surprised if a lot of people would disagree with me here. I think it's just such a, I don't know, it's just a perfect fit with the dragons, with Palavachoco, with like a lot of cool maps, with a lot of cool new maps and stuff like that. I think it was one of the best that they ever did. Yeah, I would say so. I'm new and I use the level 80 boost for second character, but I don't have any waypoints on it, and the maps is also not the same as my main. Do I have to redo all the content I did on my main? No. So that's a good question. You don't have to redo all the content. That is very important. Of course, if you want to get all the waypoints again, you have to do some map completion again. That is quite important. So if you are into like getting full completion on a character, that can be annoying. So Guild Wars 2 is not perfectly optimized for having like 100 characters and all of them have perfect completion and stuff. That is not how it works. But you can get into all the instances that you wanted to get into. You can get, for example, the meta events if you don't need everything unlocked all the time. So that can be something to consider, but I guess if you're playing open world mostly, that can be quite annoying to have a different character. So boosting to level 80 will not get you all the things that you had on your other character. That much is for sure. You will not unlock story, you will not get the full, what's it called? Full map completion, stuff like that. That is definitely a negative. Yeah, for sure. But you should still like be thankful because leveling to level 80 is like very, very fast in Guild Wars 2. So that is, we lost someone with the rest. There we go. But yeah, that's the sad truth. If you have any specific question, I can answer you there. But in general, I think like, yeah, old characters are more like for players that want to try different builds, not necessarily explore everything like where they stopped on their main, because that takes some time. That just is how it is. Oh, don't go. Get away from me. Very good. I'm just not hooked into it. Yeah, I mean, I think Living World Season 3 is actually quite decent. It's not the worst, but it's also not the best. I think Living World Season 4 is, for me personally, the best story. But I also have to mention, I'm not like insane into like story in games in general, and especially in Guild Wars 2, it's not my, like, I don't play the game for the story. I play it for the combat, I play it for the build crafting and the fun and stuff like that. So that's why I'm probably not the like perfect person to ask about my impression on story. But yeah. Season 4 has the perfect amount of set piece. Which one we have to see? Oh my god, I died. Oh my god. That's why you shouldn't read chat, but I mean, it's fine. I mean, I CC'd in the end, but we were too late. We were too late. Okay, so either way, Season 4 is the perfect amount of set piece and good writing in Guild Wars 2. Yeah, I think so too. I think, to be honest, Season 4, the only negative that I have with Season 4 are, there are two things actually. The first thing is that it like has the worst map in the entire game, I think. Domain of Corner is, in my opinion, the worst map ever. It's just really bad. I don't like it at all. I personally would say that's a reason why it's not my, like, why it has some negatives. I think that this map is really bad, in my opinion. It could be way better. And the second part, which in my opinion is like not necessarily a negative, is it would have been so much better if it would have been longer. You know, like one of the best things about this thing is that it's really good. So if it would have been longer instead of 6 episodes, maybe 8 or something, I think it would would be even better. Because I think the story, without spoiling anybody here, I think it ended a bit too, not suddenly, but it could have been longer, the story arc, because a lot of people were a bit sad that it wasn't like a little bit longer. So I don't know. That is something that I would say, but in general, I would say agree with you. Living World Season 4 probably the best out there for Guild Wars 2 right now. let's see, maybe we have a really crazy good ending with Visions of Eternity, and I will change my mind and say this is the best one. Who knows? Not convinced though, but who knows? I'm open to that. But yeah, let me know your takes. Maybe I missed something. Maybe you say Living World Season 4, horrible. Who knows? Maybe. That's so sad actually that we died here in the last, because we were actually completely fine. We had 10 people alive and then all of us died. That's a little bit sad, to be honest. But what can you do? That's a bit painful of like raid experience if you die in the last %. But okay, what can you do? Now we see the green one. Very good, very clean. So I was thinking about some build crafting later, which builds I want to go for. And I was thinking about going for some solo builds, specifically for builds that I have not done crazy good solo builds in the last months. We will have to see if I can find something that is actually like really fresh and new, while also being like using maybe some new Visions of Eternity stuff, because we had some new possibilities there. We have to see what I can come up with. I have some ideas. Maybe let's go for some Willbender or some Holosmith or something, because those I have not visited like in almost like 2 years. So it would be a good contender to make a new solo build, but I'm not sure if I can make something crazy new stuff, because that's one of the criticisms that a lot of veterans have. Guild Wars 2 feels for veterans nowadays a bit solved, you know, there is not much theory crafting, build crafting going on anymore, because a lot of stuff is already like, it's settled in stone, you know. It's like Celestial stats is for open world, like 85% of the time the best stats that you use for solo builds specifically. And that is just like, you cannot craft like 100 builds around that, because it's just always, there is some build that is just straight up better with Celestial than others. I will see if I can find something new though. I'm not giving up there, just saying it feels a little bit like that's why the new relics give some new fresh stuff for me to try out, and I'm always happy to get that. But I still have to wait a couple of weeks, I think, until they come out. So somewhere in May. So waiting for that, but who knows. I want to see you use Dragon Hunter. Yeah, I think the problem is Dragon Hunter is not support. You know, that's why I don't play that much Dragon Hunter, is because, or in general like DPS, because I typically fall, like whatever group I join, they need typically they need some kind of support. Like maybe it's a full support, maybe it's an offensive supporter, but Dragon Hunter cannot fill that role. And that's why I'm not really playing it that often. But I think I should, I agree, I should play more variety stuff on stream, and also say, okay, like guys, I'm playing DPS now and not like support all the time. But it's just such a, you know, it's in my mind to always play support, because this is the, how can I say, the hard carry spec or the hard carry role. You know, if I want to make sure that I get this done on DPS, it's way harder to actually make sure that your group succeeds. Yes, you can deal a lot of DPS, sure, but will it be actually good enough to carry the group if there is some kind of like heavy like arrow happening or something like that? Probably not. That's why I play a lot of times support, and it's also the most looked after role, at least for me, that I find pack groups looking for. Yeah. Welcome. Kind of new play on Guild Wars 2. Really appreciate your videos. Nice, glad to hear that. More to come. Welcome, Winslow. Welcome. What's the best world versus world build now since the nerfs and changed that you are able to try? I think it depends a bit on what kind of like situation you're in. Like for roaming, I think not much has changed. It's really, oops, that was the wrong one. For roaming, nothing has changed, I would say. So it's really just like for Zerging. And for Zerging, I would say like Firebrand is really good. Like I think Druid is a really good support. Like there are a lot of like good supports out there. A bit hard to say if like Luminary, Troubadour, if those are like people just are a bit going away from them because they got nerfed, or if they are really that bad that no one wants to play them anymore, or that they are not that good anymore. I think it's like probably the first. I really think the nerfs, yes, they hit hard in World vs. World, in Zerg specifically, but I think they are not like that hard that you would say, okay, we cannot play them anymore. So if you like Troubadour, if you like Luminary as a support, I think you actually like not necessarily locked into playing something else. You can still play that, I would say. Okay, we got that. Now we have only this one here. Yeah, Necromancer for roaming is like, I think the best Necromancer by like a very, very long mile away from the other specs is Harbinger. I think like Harbinger, maybe it's just because I roam a lot as like Elementalist and stuff like that, where Harbinger is like hard countering it. But I think Harbinger, if you play it well, Power or Condi Harbinger, I think they are really good. Like they are squishy, so they are not necessarily always like surviving very easily in outnumbered situations, but in 1v1s, 1v2s, stuff like that, they are really good. So Harbinger is probably my top Necromancer pick. So now it's blue. And I would be like very surprised if you lose a lot of 1v1s as a Harbinger. So yeah, that would be my tip. Did they nerf the Shroud? I think they didn't nerf the Shroud. As far as I remember, nothing changed with the Shroud in World vs. World, or in general, nothing changed with the Shroud. Maybe they changed some. I mean, the Greatsword changed a bit in the last, like, in few months, but not in the last balance patch. I don't know. Maybe it's just a feeling, you know. Always happens sometimes that you just fight opponents or the meta changed and stuff, and you feel squishy or different than before. That can happen. So far so good. Oops, I get the blue. Can we get the rest here? Maybe. Very good. I think we are done. Good job. Like this was decently clean. Decently clean. Just the 1cc was not that good. Very good. Yeah, I think like Firebrand is like, I really want to mention that like Firebrand, even when Visions of Eternity came out, Firebrand in World vs. World in Surging was never bad. It was just Luminary was a tiny bit better, or quite a bit better depending who you asked. But I think Firebrand was always like extremely valuable. And now with Luminary and Troubadour being nerfed, then you now have again, you know, the old staple is coming back. That's just how they typically do it. It's not necessarily like bad or good, it's just how balancing works. You know, if you nerf something that was overperforming, then the other thing that was there before and didn't get nerfed will come back. Yeah. I tried getting some of my friends into Guild Wars 2 the other day, but they were asking why they didn't get into Guild Wars 2 now when ArenaNet would be releasing Guild Wars 3 through. Hopefully this isn't new player sentiment. I hope so too. I really hope so too, because like it's like, if there really is the sentiment for new players of in general for the community that I don't want to commit to the game, Guild Wars 2 that is, anymore because we have something on the horizon, is crazy because we don't know anything. We have no official confirmation. So they are already scaring players away without actually saying anything. That makes it very bad, like very bad. I hope that is not the case, but I'm just a veteran that likes the game, so I'm not sure if like if that will stay like that. Lack of next expansion announcement has gotten people concerned. Yeah, that is true. That is the big problem. Like, why do they not talk to us? That is the big question. Yeah, for sure. But we as the community cannot do anything about that. And I think the only thing we could do is wait. You know, we can wait and hope that they will announce something for Guild Wars 2 that is big enough that people like it and will get back into the game. Whatever it is, you know, if it's a new expansion, if it's a new model, whatever, just tell us what's going on, and I think that would help. I'm always an advocate for telling the truth as early as possible so that people are actually like, the transparency is helping building trust, in my opinion. But ArenaNet decided to not do that for now, so we'll have to wait until they do. And I think they're doing something good for the game in either way. Like, I think like for the company and for our player that are open to play different things, I think they do some good stuff, I would guess, but I don't know what it is. So I really want to know. Yeah. Could I see your Necromancer build for World vs. World? Yes, of course. Give me a second. I have, like, there are two builds. I have two build guides on my YouTube channel. They are like 1 year old or something like that. They are still completely up to date. So you have two builds that you can play. You can play either the Spear Power Harbinger. Is it here? And you play like Spear and Sword or something like that. And you play with like full Demolisher gear. I like to play with Searching Rune so that I have some movement speed. Demolisher gives you toughness and a lot of precision and power. So you deal still a lot of damage while you get some defenses. And because you're Harbinger, you have a crazy amount of healing and your Shroud does not soak any damage. So having some toughness makes a lot of sense there. and then you just run with Atrocity Relic, which gives you a lot of lifesteal. And that is really good because you're running Blood Magic and you have Blood Bank. So this is the main synergy there, that you have a lot of lifesteal, and the lifesteal, even if you have full health, will give you a lot of barriers. So you will be either fully dead or fully at maximum health. There is almost no middle ground there. It's a really good power-based build, really fun to play. Really, really good. So keep that in mind. That is something that I would recommend you if you like a power-based playstyle, some kind of a little bit more melee-heavy focused playstyle, and a lot of like just raw damage. Yeah, and I would say very good in 101s. In certain outnumbered situations, also quite good because you have a lot of like power-based burst damage and stuff like that. But I would say the other option would be Celestial Harbinger. It's like very old school build, like has been in existence for forever. You play Traveler Rune, full Celestial, you play with Staff and Pistol Torch. I like to have that set up. And you play with Relic of Rivers or some kind of defensive relic. You can go for anything, to be honest. I just like Rivers Relic to get even more boons, but you can go for anything, to be honest. It really doesn't matter. It's just what personal preference. Important part is you go for Celestial and you run Curses, Death Magic and Harbinger, and you get a lot of toughness via Death Magic. You get some nice Boon Corrupt, and you get a lot of like utility and just damage with Curses, and then you have Harbinger, of course, for some nice quickness and just some goodness of Harbinger, with the Shroud. So those two builds, I would say they play not that differently, but the effects they have on the opponents that you can fight are quite different. So for example, Power Harbinger is extremely good against builds that just consistently deal damage and not have crazy bursts or don't have crazy condi spikes, because you just like out heal them consistently with your lifesteal. The Celestial Harbinger is really good against opponents that cannot deal with consistent condition pressure or consistent boon removal, like for example Elementalist. If you roam as a Catalyst or if you roam as a Fresh Air Evoker, you will destroy them with Celestial Harbinger because you just corrupt them all the time. You just like have CC, you have like a lot of boons that you get while also providing a lot of like conditions on the enemy. That's the safer variant. The other one is the more skill-based variant, I would say, but both of them are quite good. Hopefully that helps you. Yeah. They should just skip Guild Wars 3 and got straight to 4 and announce it. I mean, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their plan is. I really don't know about the future. Maybe, I'm always saying this, like Guild Wars 2 is a really good game and people like to play it still. And if you're a new player, you still have a lot of stuff to explore. And for me personally, I think that they will never drop Guild Wars 2 as long as ArenaNet exists. So they will always continue developing content for it, like they do with Guild Wars 1 nowadays. And I think that the new game, whatever they are developing, might not even be Guild Wars 3. A lot of people say, oh my god, it has to be Guild Wars 3. But yeah, maybe it is a game that is, so to say, the heir or child from Guild Wars 2, but it's not called Guild Wars 3. Maybe it's just a different game that uses the same franchise, but it's a different game altogether. Who knows, I think that it's really important to understand that the next game, yes, it might be, or it's probably linked to the franchise for sure, but they don't have to call it Guild Wars 3 because this has some kind of image attached to it. And this image is something that can be positive for players that like Guild Wars 2, like I do, but it can be negative for some other really popular content creators that play MMOs, that played Guild Wars 2, did not enjoy it for whatever reason, and have a negative, so to say, image mindset about Guild Wars 2. And if their new game is then, so to say, the successor to this game, they might say, okay, maybe it's not for me. Welcome, Haldir. So I think this is something that is quite important to understand, that I'm not even convinced if it will be called Guild Wars 3 if they will ever bring out another game. Maybe it is, I don't know, could be anything, yeah? Like Worlds of Tyria or whatever, just something that is related to the franchise, but not necessarily directly related to Guild Wars 2. Hope that makes sense. I'm not the best at explaining this like idea, but I think this is something that is definitely worth considering. Not only for us as the players, but for them as like try to be economic there. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. I'm pretty sure, Piggy, that Guild Wars 3 or whatever it will be, because of the job of the job postings that they did over the last multiple years, is console. On the start, when the game releases, it will be pretty sure that it is PC and console at the same time. I think that is like almost a given. I would be very, very surprised if they say, no, we only do PC, because this is something that in shop postings, like almost every shop listing they had was telling PC game, mobile, not mobile, but PC game, and was like about a console, was about like multiplayer, so online, stuff like that. It's quite, yeah. That would be like, I would be very, very surprised. Yeah. They could make a solo game, sure, but I think the job postings, like I mentioned in, like, I did, like, I think it was in December, I did a video analyzing all the job postings and going really in depth there for like 20 minutes or something and talking about what we can draw from the conclusions from those all listings and stuff, so you can check that one out. But yeah, I think like a single player game seems not as likely, because there's a lot of mention of online, multiplayer, co-op, stuff like that. Yeah. I think Guild Wars 3 will be the most popular game of the year when it comes out. I think you're right. You might be right, but it depends. You know, that's, they have not announced it, so it could be like 5 years away. It could be coming in 2 years. Who knows? Something in this like regime, in this like area, seems the most likely to me. Yeah. Yeah. I've watched your Thief problem video, and to be honest, there's no way anyone will ever change or do anything about it. Yeah, I'm with you there, Burst. I'm with you there. I think Thief is what it is. That's with Warrior somewhat similar. I think Arena is like scared to touch anything rather big anymore. Yeah. Yeah, I think online, I'm with you there, Picky, as well. I think like it's like RPG games, you can like Elden Ring, like stuff like that, they work. Don't get me wrong, they work. But I think Arena is not known for that. Why would they do something that is completely different and they don't even have any experience? I think it's very, very likely that they will go for some very online-driven and modern MMO style game. I would be very surprised if it would be anything different. I'm very surprised. I have a feeling the game would be more of an instant-based co-op game with PvP mods. Maybe, but it would definitely include some kind of like co-op and multiplayer aspect. It will never be a fully fledged single-player game. I think that is like almost a given. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It really depends how they market it. Like, I think Winslow mentioned it earlier that it would be nice to have some kind of like bridge between Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 3, but I think if it's too hard, too heavy, if the Hall of Monuments or whatever they want to implement is too big, and people are forced to play Guild Wars 2 to actually get really good stuff in Guild Wars 3 or however it's called, that will be negative. So you have to really find a nice, like, positive bridge for people that like to play Guild Wars 2, but you have to make people that don't want to play it and just want to jump into the new game as a new, so to say, player in the franchise, they don't have to be forced to go back to an older game. So you have to make a nice, like, middle ground there. It could be that it follows the story of Guild Wars 2's Visions of Eternity or something, but I think, like I said, I think you have to be really careful to not overcommit to things that are, so to say, for some players just not interesting, you know? You want to have new players, you want to open up the market to players that are actually somewhat interested in getting into this new MMO, but never played Guild Wars 2 before, for example. If you make it too bound to Guild Wars 2, those people will not join, and you will lose a huge amount of players that you could actually get. Huge, yeah. How are Condition Firebrand and Mirage faring in PvE after the Big Balance patch? Condition Firebrand really good. Mirage is, like I would say, mediocre. Yeah, short answer there. We'll do a tier list about it probably in the next week. Yeah. Yeah, they could do some quality of life aspect with the bridge, for sure, for sure. I'm with you there. I'm not sure how the bridge will look like. I think it would be really bad if there would not be any bridge, but I think it's very likely that there will be a bridge between the two games, for sure. If they will announce it this year, I will be very surprised if they wouldn't announce the bridge with it. Yeah. No, always happy to help. Always happy to help. Yeah, I agree. I think like the way they did it with Guild Wars 1 into Guild Wars 2 was a pretty smart way. I think the only criticism that I have with that is that it is like locking. You know, it's like, I think it could be done in a way that you make it so that maybe it doesn't give achievement points. I think that is something that is a bit annoying, that you like, I don't have those achievements. Where are they? Under general, I think. And then Hall of Monuments. I don't have any of those. So if I would be an achievement hunter, getting those 500 achievement points here from another game is a bit like, that is a bit weird. But that you can get skins and stuff like that, I think that's good. Like this is like titles, skins, I think that's good. I think they could go even a bit harder, like making more than 10 things that you can get. Like why not make like a lot more so that you just have more incentives to play different things. You know, you could make stuff for World vs. World, PvP, PvE in Guild Wars 2. So there's a lot of things to cover with this bridge. If it's done well, I think that would be a nice way to introduce people into the game. Yeah, I really think so. Maybe that's just my take, you know. Maybe I'm too much of a Guild Wars 2 fan to actually like say it's something, the bridge should be smaller, but I personally think it's actually, yeah, I'm pretty happy with the Guild Wars 1 bridge. I have to be honest, yeah. Yeah, I think like Guild Wars 2 was already really big, and I think if Guild Wars 3 will come out, like in the next whatever, when it will come out, it will be huge. I agree with you. I think that's, oh my god, I didn't get enough stability. That's the only negative of Tempest, is that my stability is like very limited. This is 3 stacks and this is 1 stack. I really would like to have that increased because I used it at the right time. It was just running out. But it's fine, yeah. But I'm with you there. I think like if Guild Wars 3 will come out, like let's say 2028, I think it will be the biggest game, and I have to be honest, I expect it to be probably 10 times the amount of players that will play it than Guild Wars 2. I'm not joking. Like when it came out, like that is my prediction. It will be huge. Yeah. Yeah. So Visions of Eternity will have 2 more big patches. So there will be 2 more maps, and there will be 3 more legendaries, as far as I know. And there will be like a raid encounter, and there will be a fractal and a convergence. So there will be quite a lot of new stuff coming. But Visions of Eternity is slowly, like there are like 4 months or so left in Visions of Eternity. So yeah, it's a good place to start and to buy it if you like it, because there is still some stuff coming up, but it's like, I would say slowly but surely getting towards the end of the cycle. Yes. Yeah, I'm really like I really hope they will say something about like what is going on behind the scenes very soon. I think like at this point, we mentioned it earlier here on stream, I think at this point we scare new player away because we don't tell them what is the future of the game. People think like, what, Guild Wars 2? Everyone knows there might be a Guild Wars 3 coming out, even though it's not confirmed. And people are like just scared to start a new game to play for them, new for them, if it's not like sure that it will survive the next 5 years, which is not true. Guild Wars 2 will survive the next 5 years, but they don't know that. So this is something that is like scary, and that's why I'm like, I really hope they tell us something soon. Yeah. Yeah, I think like summer is realistic. I don't have any information there. I really want to like stress that, but I think Winslow, you're right. I think summer seems like a realistic thing, because it's just like the cycle ends in summer. You know, it would be very weird if we just end the cycle and we don't know anything about after the cycle. That's just like, I don't know, a dead end without any things after. Yeah, I really think it would be very, very weird. Yeah. What is the build that you are running? I'm just playing Alacrity Heal Tempest. Nothing special. Like a very old school build. You just play Heal Tempest with Alacrity and Dagger Focus. I have a guide on that on my YouTube channel. You can always find it, !builds, in the Twitch chat or in the YouTube chat. You find it there. Or go to my website, of course, !website. You find the build there way faster than on YouTube. That can be always helpful. It's a very old school build. Nothing to tell. Like, just like water, earth, you can swap the traits even around. You don't need earth, you can go for arcane, air, fire even, whatever you like. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think Final Fantasy's expansion, like in 2027, I think that will not conflict with Guild Wars 2. Like, don't get me wrong. I think if they announce anything this year, it will not come out in 2026. It will not come out in 2027, in my opinion. I think the announcement will tell us they are working on something. We have a bridge planned. and it will come out earliest in 2028. That would be my guess. Maybe a beta in 2027 at some point, but I think that's my guess. I have no more information than you do, but that is just what I would see is realistic. Yeah, give me some quickness, thanks. But yeah, this is just what I like guess here. Yeah. Maybe we can get the CC. Nope. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, who knows what they cooked, you know? There might also be some project in there that we have not like seen and might never see what they have cooked in the back. Yeah, that could be happening. Yeah, in the background. We don't know what they have done in the last 5 years because they have always, so to say, hired new people for a project that was going on in the background. We don't know if that project always has been Guild Wars 3 or if it has been something else as well. We have to see until they tell us. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably Guild Wars 3. Probably Guild Wars 3, but who knows? Who knows? Without any official confirmation, we cannot tell anything, you know? That's just how it works. Rumors are not facts. That's just how it is. No, don't die on me here. Maybe I should have gone for the glyph, just to make sure that we can get some resurrections, but it's okay, I think. Some stability here. I think Bone Scanner is like very fun, but I cannot watch the chat meanwhile, sadly. Welcome everyone, by the way, welcome. Yeah, I think like I think you should try to focus on what games are coming out when you release a game, sure. But I think like ArenaNet knows that when they announce it and do it well, I think Guild Wars 3 or whatever they announce will be very big. Like there are not that many games, upcoming games that are on a level like that, I would say. So I think they are not too scared. They are just like, they want to announce it when they already know it's actually happening. They don't want to like announce something and then they, like so many other MMOs nowadays, will just get cancelled after a while. That is not good. That's not what they want. No. Do you have a new strong PvP necro build? Not new ones. You play either like Ritualist in PvP as a side node, or you play like a Condi or Power Reaper as a DPS. Those two are the best builds, or 3 if you want to play. It's nothing new. It's just the old stuff, I would say. We will see what in the monthly AT tonight will get played. Yeah. Yeah, I like I said, I would be very surprised if the new game, when it comes out, is not on console at launch, and I would be very surprised if they would only do like North American and European servers. I think there would be instantly Asian servers, and there would probably also be some kind of like Australian or Oceanic server. I think that is one of the main criticism a lot of people have with Guild Wars 2, that you don't have any like Asian or Australian servers, and maybe it's not really like enough people that play, but for a game that is maybe 10 times bigger, that is definitely necessary. So I would be very, very surprised if they wouldn't do that. That is my assessment of that situation there. Yeah, I'm not sure how much, like, if it's like, we have Chinese servers for Guild Wars 2, but they are obviously completely like, it's almost I wouldn't say different game, but it feels a bit different because you have like pay to win aspects and stuff like that. So I'm not sure. It's obviously a different game, but I think all should play the same game. We should all have the same market and stuff like that. And then I think it's actually, I don't know, it might be wise to have like 4 different things across the globe, maybe server regions, maybe something like that. Something like that. Who knows? I'm not a like professional there. Thanks, there Derp. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for the Prime. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Really appreciate it. Yeah, like 200 to 300 ping is like pretty painful. I know that from experience. I had that in the past as well, because my internet connection was really, really horrible. That is not good. That is definitely not good. And if you have that all the time, that can be a bit annoying. I mean, you can like play with it. It's not like unplayable, but it's definitely not perfect. Yeah, I can feel you. I can feel it. Yeah. I don't know. I'm really interested to hear what you have to think, what your like ideas are about the future of Guild Wars and ArenaNet. Would be very interested to hear that. But I think it's at this point it's just rumors and speculation. It doesn't matter. No one has any real information, and the people that have it are not allowed to talk about it, I guess. So we will just like have to wait until they officially announce it. No, don't CC. Yeah, very good, very good. Yeah. But that's just my analysis of the situation. Either way, I'm looking forward to like the patches that we will get in hopefully May one and the other one in August. I'm looking forward to see if there are any hints in there about the future of the game, or if they just already tell us, you know, who knows? Maybe they just tell us outright what's going on. We'll have to wait, I guess, until at least May, probably more until like Visions of Eternity is ending in August or something. That is the most likely scenario here that I see. Whoa, that was a lot of damage. I mean, I am well aware and that we want to know what's happening. It's probably a marketing plan. Yeah, I think like that's the biggest thing here. Don't get me wrong. If you're a new player and listening to this, you will not be affected by that. You know, a new player will be like having probably thousands of hours in this game, and it will be still able to be played for the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah. So keep that in mind. This is something that is like really, really important to notice. It's just for the veterans here that want to have some new game or want to engage with something new. And I personally think that their marketing currently is we want to get the most money for the already released expansion, which is Visions of Eternity. Yeah. So they really want to get the most amount of players investing time and money as well into this expansion. And if it's over, then they have nothing to lose anymore, because then there is nothing on the horizon that is, so to say, for them like a big money maker. Yeah. That is my analysis here. I'm not sure though if like when they say, okay, Visions of Eternity is fully over, or if they say like it can still be marketed, we just want to like get some other product marketed as well. We will have to see. We have to see. I think Guild Wars 3 is coming, yeah. I would be very surprised if it isn't. Like, I'm not sure if it will be called Guild Wars 3. I'm not sure when it will be announced, and I'm very much not sure when it's actually coming out. But I think Guild Wars 2 will last until ArenaNet stops like working at all. And therefore, I think like Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 3, whatever that will be called, will be always working in tandem. So I think if you're enjoying one or the other game, that doesn't matter. You can play both of them whenever you want. That is my analysis, so I think there will be a new game coming, yes. Exactly. Did they nerf the boon duration, or is it the same? So the boon duration is only nerfed on like 3 builds, I think. Like on Ritualist it got changed, on Colorlist it got nerfed, and then Amalgam it also got nerfed. So you definitely have some nerfs to boons, but I think almost everything else did not get touched with boons. It was just really, this patch was rather boring. You can sum it up like almost everything lost 10% DPS. That's pretty much it. So it's not a really exciting patch. It changed a little bit of what's really good and what's not that good. Sure. But it's not really like crazy reworks or something like that. Something like that. I'm not really into infusions, yeah. Like infusions, I use it as stat sticks in Guild Wars 2. I don't use infusions as anything like cosmetic. Like that's the thing. Like I don't engage with Fashion Wars, I would say, at all. So for me, infusions belong into Fashion Wars and just makes your character more glowy. And I don't engage with that. Like, really, I use them as stat sticks if I want to get the highest benchmark numbers and stuff like that, sure. But it's not like really, I don't care too much if it's like, if I'm a dark ball running around or if I'm a ball of light or a flashbang, whatever, I'm not really like into that, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's fine, you know, everybody plays it differently, and I think you are probably in the majority there. I think a lot of people are playing Guild Wars 2 only for the fashion, because you have so many options and so much freedom there. But I personally I like the combat. I like to engage with the game. I like to have some fun things going on and build crafting and stuff like that. And that's why I don't care about fashion. And it's just everybody's a bit different. Yeah? And I think that's really cool that Guild Wars 2 caters to so many different players. Yeah. I think Guild Wars 3 will be an MMORPG. Yes, I think so. I think it might be more like instance-based. I think that is one of the things that Guild Wars 2 is not known for, is like instance content. And I think that is something that they might want to change with the upcoming game. But I think it will be an MMORPG. It will be an RPG. It will be something that is focused on like some kind of story. And I think it will be in the Guild Wars franchise. And I also think that it will be very likely to have some multiplayer aspects. Yeah, it will not be a solo game. Yes. I'm not sure how it looks with competitive modes. I really, like, I mentioned that almost every stream. I think PvP is like, Guild Wars 2 is designed from ground up as a PvP game. But the problem is, into like 2016, they slowly started recognizing that the most players only play PvE. So they completely shifted their focus. And do they now continue with the focus being not competitive modes, or do they say, no, we make a game that actually is more focused towards competitive modes? I have no clue. I don't know. World versus World is very big, but compared to PvE, it's still small. Compared to PvE, it's still small. The amount of players that play only PvE is huge. I just recently made a very small survey on my YouTube channel, which is, so to say, like a small, very small snapshot of Guild Wars 2's player base. And like a lot of people answered in this survey, I will make a video about it more detailed with all the numbers and stuff, and said that they play only PvE. Like it was, I think, over 70%, which is crazy. That means that like a lot of players never touch the other game modes. Yeah, that is just like World versus World. Yeah, sure, it's big compared to like raids, compared to fractals, even compared to PvP for sure, stuff like that. But I think it is definitely still a minority. It really is. Yeah. So if you're asking about Guild Wars 3 and you want to know if you should play Guild Wars 2, first of all, Guild Wars 2 will never go anywhere. Like Guild Wars 2, you can see it with Guild Wars 1. It's still being updated, Guild Wars 1. And that is more the case with Guild Wars 2 in the future, I would say, than it is with Guild Wars like 1. So therefore, if you are like concerned about not getting more content, don't worry. And second of all, I think even if Guild Wars 3 will come out, then Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2 still have years until that happens. You know, like I said, not earlier than 2028, I would say, until Guild Wars 3 is actually officially coming out. So if it even comes out at that point. So that's why I would say, if you like Guild Wars 2, you have like years to play the game until something changes actually. So don't worry too much about it. Don't worry. If you enjoy the game now, play it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there a little bit, Euromate, that I think World vs. World can be played as a PvE game mode, but I think nowadays, especially with like, if you're on a more active server, there is a lot of fighting going on. Like, I can tell you that whenever there is prime time on the server that I'm currently on, like there is like 50 versus 50 fights going on. We don't even care about like which objective we are defending. We're just fighting all the time. That can be the case. It depends heavily on the server, I would say. Yeah. Some servers obviously just have like karma trains, like in the old days, for sure. I think the fighting aspect is more fun. I think like just doing objectives and capturing them is a bit boring. I think you want to have engagement with other players, for sure. I think a nice middle ground is the perfect thing, for sure. My answer was because a new player, you have to unlock new systems through story PvE, so I feel like I can participate in PvP, World vs. World content. I think like, I get your point. I personally would say that like Guild Wars 2 has a really good way to introduce you to PvP and World vs. World, because you can play them whenever you want. And if you enjoy them, you can join essentially on level 1, like at least PvP. World vs. World, I would recommend to be level 80, but other than that, it's like, it does not really matter. Like the competitive modes, yeah, sure, they are skill-based and you can easily lose all the time because you're a new player, but you can still have fun there and can instantly join. So I think that's actually a good system. So don't be scared, just try it out if you like the sound of it, And don't expect to win though, but you will have some fun even if you lose, in my opinion. You learn a lot from those game modes. You will get way faster, way better in the game by playing competitive modes. Yeah. And it's completely fine to not play PvP or World vs. World in the game. Don't get me wrong here either. I think like Guild Wars 2's PvE is awesome as well. I'm just saying, if you never tried it, maybe give it a try, because I think it's very underrated. Like every single game mode in Guild Wars 2 has a reason why it exists, and it's just sad that some of the game modes are way less played, even though they are, in my opinion, very much worthwhile to play. I think the beauty of the game is that you have so many different aspects how to play it. You know, some people never touched fractals, even though they played for 10 years, which is insane to me, because fractals are one of the best instance contents in the game. Just saying, there is a huge amount of content across all game modes, especially PvE has like so many different sub-game modes. It's even there, it's crazy. Yeah. Structured PvP in every MMO I've played is just outclassed by a dedicated PvP game. Yes, 100%. That's why I like my realistic assessment of the future of ArenaNet is they just abandon PvP. Like in a realistic case, if you have an MMO game and you want to make PvP in it, you cut resources from stuff that a lot of the players actually want to play, and only a small fraction of the player base wants to engage with PvP. Not saying PvP is bad in those games, like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, Guild Wars 2, they have PvP, but if you are really a competitive player, you don't care about MMO, so to say. You play something that is actually only PvP, like League of Legends, Dota, CSGO, something like that, Overwatch, whatever you want to call here. I think this is something that is like, you are just a bit like illusional if you think an MMO has a bigger MMO PvP scene than other PvP only games. Yeah, I'm with you there 100%. 100%. I want to get started with dungeons, reckless raids. Do you have a fun UU guild I can join? So it depends what kind of guild you want to look for. You can, of course, join my community guild. We always have some people that if you write something, and in the Discord, for example, you can always find someone that actually joins your group. And if you have you need some help, whatever. But if you're looking specifically for tryhard guilds that are specifically focused towards that, you can always, like, for example, I made a video recently about dungeons. You can join this dungeon run guilds. If you want specifically for fractals, I guess you have to ask specifically in like map chat and stuff for those people. But you find this. I cannot recommend one specific guild because I just don't engage with that much. But if you want to do that, just ask in Discord servers and in the map chats. That's the typical best way to get into guilds that are specific to one game mode. Yeah. Like that. Just wanted to mention it. Yeah. I want to, but if I don't have all the weapons, combos or specs available, that I'm at disadvantages to begin with. That is fair. If you are like having this competitive mindset and you don't want to start with a disadvantage, I think that is fair. But you don't have to start. That's a good point. You know, PvP, World vs. World, those are things that you can start if you want, but it's not something that you have to start if you are feeling at a disadvantage. So I think like, especially World vs. World, being level 80 and having exotic gear is good enough. World vs. World is like very forgiving if you're in a circ, because it's mostly about, do you have players around and do you position correctly? And that's probably like good enough if you're level 80 and have like exotic gear. That is my assessment there. PvP, I would say, yeah, sure. If you don't play meta builds, that can be a bit more painful. Sure. But I think even there, skill is way more important than anything else. Like if you play PvP and you are very skilled as like a legendary player that won a monthly AT or something, and you play a build that is complete garbage, core build, whatever, that is like just not working, then you will probably still win matches that new players on a meta build will lose, just because you have more knowledge about the game. So I think it's always about understanding that, yes, having not everything unlocked is one thing, but on the other hand, having something that is not, so to say, acquirable through getting more progression in the game is skill, and that is also quite important. Hope that makes sense, what I said here, but that's what I think about this whole, I don't know, getting into PvP and World vs. World, I would say. Just wanted to mention it here. Okay, so what do we do next? I guess we can do a Forging Steel. Why not? What do we play? We need some range damage. I don't have that many range builds set up, sadly. We can play some Gale Shot. We can do that. But yeah, I think like Guild Wars 2's biggest strength for me is that it has so much flexibility, so many different game modes. And I think, to get back to the original point here, I think they will cut PvP in the new game. Whatever it is, I think PvP is the most unpopular game mode in Guild Wars 2. And I would be very surprised if they would make the new game and say we make the same things that we have in Guild Wars 2. I think it's very realistic that they say we focus only on PvE, or if they want, they can also add some kind of open world PvP like World vs. World. But I think more than that, it seems unrealistic. Like, I really think that the main focus of the new game is one game mode and that extremely big and extremely frequent updates and stuff like that. That is my prediction. I think anything else is, I don't know, ambitious and not necessary. Yeah, I think a lot of times when you asked the developers in the past of Guild Wars 2, they said one of the mistakes that we did is to make too much things in the game that are not for everybody. So if you make more niches in a niche, and just another one and another one, then you split the player base in so many different pieces that in the end, you cannot upkeep all of them without sacrificing quality or quantity, both of it, I guess. And that is something that is really like visible with like especially PvP and World vs. World in Guild Wars 2. Just the amount of updates and changes they get is just way smaller than PvE. And if they would have just one game mode less, they could focus more on that. Yeah, I really think so. I mean, I'm not sure if it will be a battle royale. I think that seems unrealistic. But like I said, I expect the new game, whenever it comes out, to be something that is more different than it is the same of like Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 1. I think it's a big mistake as a studio that develops games to make a game that is exactly a copy of an old game. So if you have two games and you make a third game and it's just a copy, a better copy of the second game, it will kill the second game. If you make a new game that is different enough that the second game can still continuously be played by players that enjoy the second game more than the third, then you have a healthy increase of player base. So I think just from a business perspective, it makes sense to make the new game different enough to cater to a different audience. Not necessarily only to the different audience, but on top of the other one. So that's why I think the way I just explained. Yeah. But it's just my opinion, you know? That's just my opinion. The Regalia is such a grind, but there are also so much cool moments in the story. Yeah, I think like the Prismatic Regalia is one of the legendaries. Where is it? It's one of the legendaries where I would say like it's free and it costs you time, yes, but it is also a very good experience. Like I agree with you, some of the aspects can be very tedious and very long, but I think it's probably in the top 3 legendaries. Maybe the best legendary ever they created. Because it's a legendary item that everybody can get if they wanted to for no gold cost, and it has a journey bound to it that really gives you this feeling of it. Even though there are some tedious moments in there, you earn yourself this legendary. It's extremely good, like really, really good item. And I think they might, I don't know, if they will do that in the future again, I think it's a smart way to make something that is very close to this. I really think so. And I think legendaries with a journey, I really always prefer to legendaries that are just like a gold sink. Like a gold sink only legendary is something that is for me just boring. And I'm talking from experience here because I have all the legendaries. So I made all of them, and I can tell you one of them or two of them, they are better than others just because the journey is good. Like I know some of the aspects are tedious, but for me personally, I would rather have some tedious aspects in a legendary than having just a gold sink. Because just a gold sink is in the end just an expensive skin. You know, you could just say, okay, it's like a legendary, it's just something like an invisible boots that you just purchase from the trading post and that's it. I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad thing that those items exist, but for me a legendary is something that is focused on a journey, something that is legendary by nature. That's why I think like some of the legendaries that they made in the past are way better than some others. Yeah. That's my opinion there. Welcome, Snowdrop. Welcome. Oh, all the challenge modes? That's crazy. That's crazy. Hopefully we don't die. Maybe Guild Wars 3 will be what would you want to see in Guild Wars 3? That is a very personal and very subjective question, because obviously like what I want to see might not be the thing that like actual players also want to see. But I personally would like to see in Guild Wars 3, I want to see the same combat or better combat than Guild Wars 2's combat. Like, I think one of the aspects that Guild Wars 2 does the best is the combat. I think it's not perfect. I made a whole video about why it's not perfect. But I personally think it's so good that it would be a shame if they would not make the game build on that. Yeah, so that is my opinion there. But at the same time, I also think that it would be awesome if it would have some new stuff. So I think Guild Wars 2, one of the things that is lacking the most is solo PvE like scaling content. So for example, if you see in Final Fantasy, I think it's called like, is it called Palace of the Dead or something like that? I'm not sure, but there is this solo scaling end game content that also has good rewards attached to it, as far as I know. And I think that is completely missing in Guild Wars 2. That is like, and I think that is something that would be such a banger if they did that in the new game. Like completely make something that is for new players and veterans soloable, but it scales up very high. That would be so good. Like that would be such a nice addition. Yeah. Okay, so I was right there. I'm okay. That's good. Yeah, exactly. From Final Fantasy, exactly. Final Fantasy 13. I think something like that would be really good. Like I think that would be awesome. But that's just one thing. There are so many things that I would like to see in a game that comes out, because, like I said, I think it should be different enough to cater to a different audience. And I think Guild Wars 2 is really strong in open world. It's really strong with like people somewhat being like soloing the game. So I think it would be nice to have an aspect in Guild Wars 3's PvE that is completely solo. Like it's by design soloable. But at the same time, it should also heavily focus on something that Guild Wars 2 is lacking, which is like instant content. Like 5-person and 10-player instance content in Guild Wars 2 is there. But if you look at how long Guild Wars 2 has lived, I think that is something that's very heavily underdeveloped. So I think that would be something that would be nice to have, like, I don't know, 20 to 30 dungeons. Yeah, something like that, where you actually have some kind of puzzle mechanics. You have some clear exploration aspect like in other games. So stuff like that you have solo aspects and multiplayer aspects in PvE, which is in Guild Wars 2. Like you have at this point like effectively 9 raid wings, maybe 8, something depends how you want to count. I think the new game should start with that many, maybe, you know, stuff like that. That might be a hot take, but I personally think like you really have to go hard. Yeah, really hard. Yeah, I'm with you there, Blank Zero. I'm with you there. But how would you do that in Guild Wars 2? I'm not really sure. Another system similar to it is the delves. Yeah, exactly. Delving from World of Warcraft, exactly. Just something that scales very long, that you get really good rewards and you can do solo. I think that is like, this is awesome. And maybe make it even so that you can scale it up, not only in terms of difficulty, but also in terms of player number. So that you can say, okay, I don't want to play it alone, but I want to play it with a friend. Or I want to play it as a 5-person group. And I get more rewards that way. But it's not like it's also harder, so that you can, so to say, scale it up in a way that people that want to play alone still get really good rewards, but people that want to play with 5 people is still really, really good as well. I think that would be like awesome. Scaling in all directions, so to say. And I think you can make that work with like the clever usage of like AI in coding. Not saying that they should use AI to code like all things, but they should make it so that, for example, like that you have procedural generated content or something, or that you have like the difficulty scaling always infinitely increase. Like they had it with fractals in the beginning. Like that was pretty fun. Yeah. Titles, sure. Titles would be good as well. Yeah. It's a little sad for me. Right after all the years in Guild Wars 2, we'll stop all for a new game. I'm a bit torn with this like argument. I can understand if a player that put in thousands of hours in Guild Wars 2 over the decade. It's sad that they lose all their progress, that they lose all the, so to say, quality of life they got. But at the same time, I think if a game is, so to say, solved, if you have everything done, then it's nice to start fresh on a different game, because you get new aspects, new things to explore, new things to try out that you would never do in Guild Wars 2, because it's just at this point you have everything. Like re-experiencing to get to the highest level of gear if you have full legendary is something that I will never do on Guild Wars 2, maybe on a second account because I'm a content creator, but like a player that just put, I don't know, 5,000 hours in Guild Wars 2 will not experience that again. So I think a new game can actually make that again like a fun aspect to just explore and see something that you never saw in the last 10 years. I think that is something that is like worth mentioning, and I think really valuable. At least for me it is. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is a good point with the infinite scaling. You could have some cool like fractals implemented there in this game. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Could you make some Ranger best build crafting for World vs. World roaming? Ranger needs more love in PvP. So the thing is, I think Ranger is really good in like roaming if you play it correctly. Especially Untamed is good, like Soul Beast can be really good. Those can be awesome. But the thing is, I have to be honest, in competitive modes, I'm just not a really good Ranger player. So if you specifically look for PvP Rangers, you should probably like watch Boy's stream. Like this is, and then like ask him for making a new build or something. I'm really good at like build crafting, but I'm not good at executing a Ranger. So I would be a bit like, I could not showcase the potential of a Ranger build in roaming and stuff like that, because I'm just sadly not the best Ranger. Sadly. Would have to put way more effort in. Yeah. A few days back, you made a YouTube video short with AI voiceover. Please don't do that anymore. So first of all, I never do any shorts with, I never do anything with AI voiceover. I think that the thing that you mentioned here, oh my god, it just kills me. It just killed me. Okay. The thing that you mentioned here is called dubbing. That is like a feature of YouTube. So if you have not the native language or the language that I speak in this YouTube short, which is English, I always speak English on my YouTube channel, then that means it automatically changes the language of the video for AI, with AI. And that is a YouTube feature. You can turn that off if you want by changing the settings in your YouTube account. It's not something that I actively do. It's a YouTube feature. Yes. Yeah, I think like you have, that's a good point. When a new game comes out of ArenaNet, they have to be very, very careful with how the monetization looks. Like the monetization in Guild Wars 2 is, I would say, decent, but it has some flaws. And if they make the flaws go away in the new game, that would be a huge benefit. If they make the flaws worse, that would be a big, big downside. Then people would be very upset. You can see how many of the new MMOs that come out have big monetization issues. And if you do that wrong, and people just notice and remember this game is like heavily monetized and not like healthily, then people will not like play the game anymore. I don't know. I think like we should not have gone for all the challenge modes. This is not good, in my opinion. But okay, what can you do? I'd also want to see some unique areas with unique rewards. You can grind something to carry over into the next expansion, like Eureka in Final Fantasy XIV. My main problem with Guild Wars 2 is that you log in on Monday, do your weekly raids and raid reset, and then fuck off for the rest of the week. Yeah, I think that would be really cool if they would make the rewards. Like, I think that's one of the biggest issues with Guild Wars 2. That gets a little bit better nowadays, but in the last, like, let's say 5 years, a lot of the rewards were, like, meaningless. Not necessarily for quality of life, like a legendary or something, but it doesn't feel that great to just farm specific things because you want to get the raid legendary armor or something. It feels way better if you get a really cool skin because you earned it, because you made something that is like unique, and people that want to get that skin have to play this piece of content, this area. And this is something that they slowly improved, but they are still far from being perfect here. So I think I'm with you there. I think it's really important to make the rewards and the balance of those rewards and uniqueness of those rewards really meaningful. Like really meaningful. Yeah. They should make ranged classes work from range in Guild Wars 3 PvE. I think that's like I made a whole video about that topic as well, where I talked about like Guild Wars 2 has a big problem with like how boons work, and that's the main issue of like why you don't have really range in PvE being that important, because everyone is stacking on top of each other, mostly for boons, but also for other things. And I think the stacking issue exists in all games that are like multiplayer online games. I think that's just the nature of things if you just get everything typically on top of each other. So it's hard to solve, but I think it would be awesome if they could make some range incentives that you play with a certain class as a ranged class, because it's really good with range. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Blankside, I think the monetization in Guild Wars 2 is awesome. I personally think so. But I had people in my YouTube comments, in my stream actually, telling me that they think Guild Wars 2 is pay to win. And I think this is an image that you don't want to have. So even if that's not the case, if you have the image, or if people tell you Guild Wars 2 or Guild Wars 3, whatever it is pay to win, you don't want to have that image in the Western world. You want to have an image where you say, this is a game that is worth the price and people want to play it because it has good content. You don't want to say, yeah, it's a good game, but it's just like sucking you dry with all the money. So this is why I think Guild Wars 2 has some image issues with the gem store, with like how it works and how legendaries and all that stuff can just be bought all the time. So it's not a real legendary in that sense, because everyone can just buy like, I don't know, Eternity, and it's not really like a prestigious item. So that can be viewed as a negative. Yeah. Yeah, I think Guild Wars 2 has some pay-to-convenience issues. That is more like it. I like getting the bigger inventory, getting more bank slots, stuff like that. That is more like pay-to-convenience, but I think that's more acceptable in the Western world than having pay-to-win, yeah, where you just increase your power level of your gear, and that with like actual real money. Yeah. Yeah, a Guild Wars 2 can be very pay to win if you look at like gem store skins, yeah? If you, for example, want to have this Comet Hammer, and this is like, I would say a very like classic gem store item. It has a clear, like it looks cool, I would say. It has a very unique skin, and it could easily been in a like some kind of raid encounter. It could have easily been some PvP reward or something that you could farm in the game. But no, it's in the gem store. So if you are specifically after certain skins, that can be pay to win. That is a pay to win aspect. But Guild Wars 2 balances it in a way that you can actually purchase anything in the gem store with gem conversion. So essentially you can farm everything in the game with gold. But that leads to making those skins here pretty like, they are unique, but no one cares because they don't have any prestigiousness to them. It's just about the skin. So I think to find a nice balance there in terms of how people actually enjoy something, to get it and how it looks is really important, and I hope that they nail that with the future game. Yeah. Yeah. Pay to look cool. Yeah, I guess that describes it the best. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm not saying Guild Wars 2 is pay to win. I'm really not saying. I'm actually saying Guild Wars 2 is far from pay to win, like almost any other MMO, yeah? But I know people in the chat had this argument. I'm not saying that they are right. I'm just saying if those people exist, ArenaNet has to try to improve that, because you don't want to have that image if it's not even correct, you know? This is what I'm saying, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think they did that, like you mentioned here with expansion exclusive skins and stuff. They did that in the past. They did that. They made, for example, some legendaries not tradable, and you have to have, for example, Path of Fire or Heart of Thorns expansions to get, for example, like Astralaria or something. That is what they did. It's not tradable, it's earned. So if you have someone that has like Astralaria or Chukan Champawat or something like that, you know those people actually went out and crafted it themselves. You know that those people actually have the expansion and stuff like that. But they didn't do it anymore. Like all the new legendaries are tradable, at least the legendary weapons. So is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? You could make arguments about this either. Like that's just what they do. Yeah, I don't know. Thanks, Snowdrop. Really appreciate the Prime. Thanks a lot. 13 months. That's crazy. Imagine actually instance content with different difficulty settings in Guild Wars 3, not just pumping out 4 maps and Fractal, everyone hates them. Yeah, I would be like difficulty settings from the start and multiple ones at that for almost every piece of content. That would be like such a win, like for the whole community. You know, I think like the difficulty settings would solve so many issues if you have, I might be even like so bold to say that I think what they are doing with the quick play in Guild Wars 2 right now might be some kind of prototype for the next game. That might be something that is not like provable until they announce anything. But I personally think that might be something. And I think like making really good difficulty settings is like, would be such a game changer. Like insane game changer. Like how many people did now get into raids because of the quick play, because of the increased rewards, and actually noticed how good they are. And before they said, oh my god, raids are so hard, I will not get into them. I think this is really important. Like really, really important. Maybe we will do a legendary giveaway at some point, yeah? And then I can gift you a Predator maybe, Rocken. Maybe, but not yet, not yet. I just think legendaries shouldn't be buyable. I agree, but I know some people say, I want to play the game and I don't have enough time to spend like hundreds of hours to get a legendary. For them, that might be the case. And they want to just purchase it with real money. I think there are arguments to both sides. I'm with you there, that I think a legendary should be a nice legendary item. And something that is like really telling a story and is somewhat prestigious, maybe. But that's just not the case in Guild Wars 2, and I'm not sure if they will ever change that. If they will change that with the new game either. I'm not sure. But who knows? We will see. We will see. Quick play with role select for heals and boons in a WoW Dungeon Finder style would be huge. Yeah, exactly. Like having this tested in Guild Wars 2 and then changing it in Guild Wars 3 or whatever it will be called to be better than the thing that they implemented and tested in Guild Wars 2, improving all the issues with it, is a very smart way. And learning from other games as well. Oh yes, I think that's very good. Yeah. Sorry, Rocken. Yeah, I think like most of us here in chat, if Guild Wars 2 was pay to win in terms of power level, I think most of us wouldn't play it. I think in Western audience, it's like you don't want to have any pay to win aspects. Like I think like there are some games like Black Desert where pay to win is okay and the Western audience still plays it. But if you look at the Eastern games, like Eastern MMOs, they typically have insane amount of pay to win. Typically, like Asian players, they only play games that have pay to win. They don't want to have games that having no pay to win. That is crazy for us, but I think that's the difference. And I think you have to know your consumer, your audience to make a decision like that. But I think Arena really wants to focus on games that they are like capable of making, which are Western audience-based games typically. Oh my god, damage. Yeah, that's just my point there. Also, role select and defined roles. This do what you want approach was supposed to be liberating and ended up suffocating the content. Yeah, I think like Guild Wars 2 was at the game when it launched, it was so to say the game that wants to be the anti-MMO while still being an MMO. Yeah, and I think that was an approach back then that appealed to a certain player base. But nowadays, in the last few years, they actually, I would say, changed to a more traditional MMO. Like the raids, how they make raid rewards, how they make like builds viable and stuff like that. It's way more classic MMO than it was back then. And I think that really tells us that they are now aware that to be different doesn't mean necessarily to be better. And that's why I think they might actually go back to the traditional, maybe Holy Trinity. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know what pay to win means. That is completely true. I think a lot of people don't know what it means and just are throwing that around. Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Yeah. Getting into a raid and having 0 healers is a pain on a bunch of bosses like Old Dance Court. Yeah, exactly. I think the quick play, especially the raid quick play, has a huge like issue. That's why maybe we do it after this like, how is it called? Like Forge Steel here. We will maybe do 10 quick plays and you will see that Like quick play is something that is like, as a starting point, it's good, but it needs to be iterated on. Like having like no healers in a random group or having no boon DPS in a random group is just horrible as a design. So I think you need role selection for easy raids to make them actually like functioning very well and enjoyable for everyone. And I think this is either something they improve in Guild Wars 2. Probably not, I don't see it to be honest, but maybe. But in the next game, they have to improve that. Like if that is not at launch in there, I think I'm really disappointed. Like really, really disappointed. Yeah. What would you say is the best race for animations on Revenant? That's a tough one. I actually like the Sylvari animations quite a lot, I have to be honest. But that is just a personal like preference. I think like Sylvari animations are actually quite clean on Revenant. Yeah. Yeah. I personally don't really like the Asura ones, but the Sylvari ones I like, yeah. Arena is about solving problems that gamers face. Back then it was the Holy Trinity, now it might be even something like a cash shop. They might just put on a sub on the next game and nothing else in terms of payment. Would be wild. That would be interesting. Like I would not be opposed to a subscription fee if it's well done. You know, if it's like really implemented in a way that you can say, okay, this actually I feel the value that I get for a sub fee. I think you have to be careful though, because like you want to get a new audience, but you don't want to completely alienate the old audience. So how many players in Guild Wars 2 do you think would play the game if it would have a sub fee? I actually think that would be a rather small amount. And you want to carry over at least like a decent chunk of your Guild Wars 2 players should be carried over in the other game as well. So I think ArenaNet is probably doing something rather similar buy-to-play model that Guild Wars 2 has, I would guess. But maybe not. I'm up for a sub fee if it's done well, yeah. I'd like to get into Guild Wars 2, but I find the combat floaty. Maybe it was just the class I was playing. What class do you recommend with more weighty combat feel? I think Warrior is really good with weighty combat feel. And probably like, I think Guardian is also extremely, like, it feels like it has a lot of like oomph to the attacks and stuff like that. But it's always personal. Like I made a whole video showcasing every class. You can find it on my YouTube channel. But in general, it's like, I would say, if you don't like a certain class, don't judge the whole game because all the classes feel very, very different. Yeah. But yeah, that's my take. Yeah. I don't think a sub game would be a success. I think with a sub game, you'd instantly like try to be like very similar to the already existing sub fee games, and I think maybe that's not a smart way of doing it. Maybe you want to have a game that is like clearly something that is like having its own niche, its own audience. Maybe, I don't know. We will have to see. We will have to see what Arena is like cooking up for us. Yeah, exactly. So, you see, we have some people in chat that are happy to buy legendary weapons with gold. And I think that's a fair point. It like exists for a reason. Yeah. My hashtag one suggestion for Guild Wars 3 would be to make the whole game easier to update. Yeah, I think that's the main thing why they're actually using, for example, a different engine in the new game. It's very likely that there will be like a completely different engine used than in Guild Wars 2 because Guild Wars 2 is so annoying to update. Yes, 100%. I would be very surprised if they changed. It didn't change that one. Yeah. Welcome, chat. Welcome, welcome. I'm doing great. Hope you all are doing fine as well. We're just talking about the future of the franchise, I guess. Yeah. What's your guess when Guild Wars 3 will come out? So my guess is 2028. I have no data on that, of course. That's just my guess in terms of like, they have not announced anything yet for the future of Guild Wars 2. I think they will announce something this year. And then they will maybe make some kind of beta test in 2027. And in 2028, I think the official launch seems reasonable. I have no data. That's just my guesses here. Maybe it's completely off. Maybe it's 2030, something like that. Could be. Could also be earlier. Who knows? I don't know how far they are in the production. We have no clue. Maybe they just tell us when it's already done. You know, Shadow launching on Monday. Who knows? The problem is ANET wants to innovate so much they lose themselves in it. Yeah, they get completely lost in the source. Yeah. They like to be like the crazy guys with the new ideas, and sometimes they are. I'm not saying they are not. So sometimes they just lose it completely and just like overcook like crazy. I know the feeling with my builds as well, but ArenaNet is going sometimes really, really hard. Yeah. Maybe an optional sub. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, exactly. Like some people quit the game. I did that as well when I started the game back in 2013 and I played Ranger. I didn't like Ranger at all back then. Core Ranger was just boring to me and I quit the game. I came back 2014 and tried it again and played, I think back then I played Warrior and it was way more like enjoyable for me. It's really just about finding the playstyle that you like, and you might change your playstyle. You know, right now I'm playing Ranger and I like Gale Shot, but you should be very like open and say, okay, maybe that's just not the class for me. Maybe the game is still fun. Of course, that's for new player a bit more annoying to find out, but give it a try. Yeah. Every game company seems to be making the same mistake, announcing early, lose hype, and release 4 years later. Yeah, I think ArenaNet really tries to avoid that. Like, I think they are so far in the development that they can release the game in the next few years. I would be, like, from the shop postings, we know that they worked on this game already in the last, like, 5 years. Like, at least the last 5 years. Which is, I would say, still not crazy amounts of time that you spend on an MMO. Like, there are MMOs out there, I'm not name calling here, but they are in development for almost 20 years. So that is something that exists. But I think ArenaNet actually know what they're doing. They developed in the end 2 MMOs to some extent. So they are pretty like confident they can make it, I think. Yeah. Hydrating, a very good point. Yeah, I agree. I think like in the end, the most realistic scenario is that Guild Wars 2 will continue running for the next 10 years, and it will still get some updates. Not like insane expansions like Heart of Thorns or Path of Fire, but it will get some updates. And because of that, I will probably also continue playing Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 3 when it launches. Of course, when it launches, I might not play Guild Wars 2 like every day anymore, because I will play the new game. But I would be very surprised if I wouldn't come back for every now and then, once 2 times or something per week. Like, it would be very like crazy to me. Yeah. Yeah, it's actually insane to me as well that ArenaNet didn't tell us anything about the new patch. You know, you can check out with like the special tab 17 days. So we have like essentially like 2.5 weeks until the new patch drops. And we know nothing. We only know there will be a new map. We know there will be a new like legendary from World vs. World and one new accessory from PvE. And that's it. You know, what else do we know? I don't know. We just have no more information. That's just crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. Not saying that this is not meaning that it will be a bad patch. I'm just like, I think they could hype it up quite a bit more. I think they could do like 1, maybe 2 blog posts just teasing a little bit or making a trailer or something about the new map, making a new legendary trailer every now and then, every 1 week, every like couple of days, should just hype up the player base with the new patch. But for now, it really looks like that's it. That's like we have to wait until it drops. Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that's a little bit of a missed opportunity. Yes, there will be a new map coming in 2.5 weeks. That much we know. That is the only thing we know, because it was confirmed in December. Or reconfirmed. It was confirmed earlier than that, but yeah. Yeah, Power Conduit is really fun. Glad you're enjoying it. Like, Power Conduit is like, even after the nerfs, oops, I should have been here. Yeah, even after the nerfs, it's really good. It's really, really good. Really, really fun class. And like, it didn't get nerfed much. It's still one of the best, like, probably the best Power Revenant spec right now. Yeah, either way, I'm looking forward to the new patch. I think for me, it's like I'm excited to get more content, especially new legendaries to farm. But I also am excited to see the new map. I really hope it is as beautiful as the other 2 Visions of Eternity maps and hopefully has some meta event. I really hope for a good meta event on the next map. Not something like Bavanissos or like, I don't know, Mistburnt Barrens. I want a really good meta event, like End of Dragon style meta events. That would be awesome. Something that you not only can farm for gold, but also has like fun aspects to it. Who knows? We will have to see when that happens. But that is my big hope. And we will get 6 new relics. I'm also like, that doesn't sound like much, but I'm always looking forward to the new relics. I think that those relics are always like something that is like a big like build crafting aspect for me. Yeah. Ooh, there are a lot of enemies. Yeah, there is, I would agree, there is quite a lot with this patch coming. Not as much as with the Grand Finale patch. I think the one in August, or when it's supposed to be in August, that one will be even bigger because it has like insane amount of content. Oh my god, we're almost dead. It's almost dead. Oh my god, everything is almost dead. That's not good. Oh my god, that is so close. We were like here, we're like 5% or something on the tank health. At least we made it. That's good, we got everything. Almost every challenge mode. Not bad, not bad. Yeah, the fashion template fix would also be awesome if they like made it. Like, really. Do you think they will nerf Relic of the Pirate Queen? That's a really tough one. So I personally think that that might be a really hot take here. Please don't clip this. But I think they don't care about open world solo builds. If an open world solo build is insanely good, I think ArenaNet just says, who cares? Like, open world is like, it's not like, it doesn't break because it is someone who plays a really crazy good build. I think ArenaNet is more scared about stuff that is, so to say, like hard, challenging, and that gets broken because of a really good build. I think in open world, if you solo a champion that you didn't solo in that time or didn't solo at all before, they don't really care. I think they don't really want or are willing to change like open world builds, for example, like Relic of the Pirate Queen. They don't really think that this is something that is like making the game worse. I think it makes the game probably more accessible for the most part. That's what I think here. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe they will nerf it, but they could have nerfed it a long time ago, I would say. And they didn't. That's my assessment here. Yeah. Yeah, glad to hear that, Solowers. Glad to hear that. Exactly, like the Pirate Queen Relic is really good in open world. Like, but you see not a single build running that in like any like group scenario. So it's like a relic that is made to be used there. So I think it's actually okay. Like I think it's actually, I'm not like too sad about like this relic existing, and I think they will also be not too scared to leave it like that. They could have nerfed Celestial as with the same argument as well in open world. It's like insanely broken, but they didn't. So yeah, I think it's unrealistic that they will change anything about it. That's my assessment there. I'm really curious about the story length. That is true. I have no clue about the story. Like, the story was in Visions of Eternity, like, was okay, but was not like crazy long. I'm not sure if the new thing will be now longer because it has, so to say, like 6 months to cook instead of the usual 3, or if they say no, we will still do like the story rather like short. I don't know. We will have to see. We will have to see. Okay, so let's set up for raid mode. And I guess we will not lock the SOC groups. I learned from last time. And give me a second. And then we can do some raid quick play together if some people are interested. If people are interested. So I'm posting it here in chat. People can join if they want. And we will see what we can do together. I have played Power Troubadour, yes, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. I think Power Chronomancer, Power Virtuoso, they are just, in my opinion, more fun to play than Power Troubadour. I think Troubadour is really good as a healer, but I think Troubadour is not like insanely good as like DPS. I think it doesn't have that much going for it, other than distortion share. Yeah. Yeah. Very good, very good. Yeah, I think like soloing is like in Guild Wars 2 is more like something that people do because it's fun and you can make builds crafting around it and stuff like that. But I think on the other side, it's like stuff that you can solo in Guild Wars 2, you can also do in a group and you will typically be faster. So I think the relics are not necessarily breaking the game because it's like just enables the game for players that want to play it in a certain way, but it not really breaks anything in the game, like not anything at all. That's my analysis. That's why I think like Pirate Green Relic and stuff is like good, sure. It's like insane to have like on builds that have like a lot of CCs, you just get like 5 to 6 seconds or even higher amount of quickness. That's crazy, but it is not really important. Like it doesn't change too much. Yeah, it is not like, for example, some relics are like completely game breaking in my opinion, but this one, I don't know, not that much. How much of an impact does food have? That's a good question. So food has, like I would say, even the cheapest food or very cheap food gives you really good value. So food and utility consumables together give you at least 5% damage if you go for like some builds that use really like crazy food. Like for example here, this food gives you 15% bleeding duration. And imagine you are a build that deals 90% of its damage with bleeding. Then this food gives you essentially a 15%, over 15% damage increase because it makes your bleeding last 15% longer. So I would say anything between 3 to 15% in food is there. So food is really like noticeable. Depends, of course. So just keep it in mind. Just keep that in mind. Yeah. Just keep that in mind. Would you ever attempt to soloing a raid boss like Demos? Have seen some successful attempts. So I'm not really like that. My mental is not, so to say, I'm not too, how can I say? I'm not too keen on trying and dying over and over on the same boss for like hundreds or like tens of hours. Yeah. Because I know from the Mixer, for example, they play certain raid bosses and play for weeks only this raid boss to actually succeed. I think I could not do that. I could not handle that. But other than that, I think like it's cool to see somebody else do it. Like Demos solo, I mean, why not? I don't know if that works that well, but if they can, sure. Yeah, we can try the Herald. Yes, we can try the Herald. Always glad to see some low intensity builds. Where is my Revenant? There it is. Yeah. I don't know, I think it seems like we don't have enough people here, so I guess we will not do the quick play. If not enough people are interested in raid quick play, then I guess we will try it another time. Sorry. That's how it goes. So let's go for the low intensity button Herald. Let's see how it goes. So tell me everything that you want me to know about it, and then I can theorycraft how it looks. Yeah, that we can override that one. My main is Inferno Evoker, Condi Virtuoso. I'm guessing food is the big one for me. Yes, it is. Like food is like really important. Condi Virtuoso is like using the celestial food, which gives a lot of stats, so that's really important. It's expensive, but really important. And Inferno Evoker also uses the burning food, I think. So that is also like extremely important. Yes. Extremely important. So let's spawn a golem. Full Berserker, Dragonback, Dragon Hunter runes. Okay, let's see how it goes. LI Herald, okay. we go for full Berserker. Dragon Hunter runes, the classic. Yeah, makes sense. Sword. Mist Stranger Relic. That's already like a crazy cook to me. Very good. I like it. Mist Stranger Relic. And full Berserker. With a Dragon's Backpack. Okay. Sword. With Force and Air Satchel. Okay. Makes sense. Okay. I mean, if you use only the birthday cake boosts, that is better than not having any food. That's what I always preach in my YouTube videos when I talk about build guides and food. It doesn't matter which food you use, it's always better than not using any food. Of course, it might not be optimal, but it's always better to do that. Yeah. Okay, so the classic Power Herald traits. I guess like you're going for like stuff like this and Rolling Mists, and then probably like one of those. It doesn't really matter. And then bottom. Yep. Okay, and I don't have power infusions on this character, so I guess we will do without infusions. Standard power food I already have on there, so yeah, makes sense. 100% crit rate. I think that looks good. Now for the rotation. I'm excited now. Probably not happening that much. You probably like, what do you spam? Like this maybe, and the 2 skill? There's always time to challenge yourself. Used to use no food. I mean, I wouldn't do that in real life. You could do that in like the game, but I think like food is like really good. It's not that hard to do. Assassin and Dwarf. Okay. That's interesting. You really run Assassin and Dwarf just to upkeep all the time with the 9 skill. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, and I would say it's typically cheaper to craft your food yourself, but I would say it's often not worth the hassle. I think like pre-ordering it or buying it from the DP is good enough. In the standard food, you have to craft yourself. Chat. Yeah. You flip the upkeep skill and F2. And click 2 and auto attack. Then swap to not let the F2 die out. Then you swap when the low energy. Okay. Then swap to not let the F2 die out. Okay. Okay, I mean that seems pretty solid. Yeah. Do you start probably on Shiro because it has more damage? Why is my golem dying? Don't die. Okay, let's see how it goes. Let's try it. I mean, should be easy enough, shouldn't it? And then like hands off the keyboard. I mean, why is it 3 button build? Because you press the buttons in the beginning. The F2, because otherwise it would be like essentially a 2 button build. Because you keep the F2 up forever. Yeah, I mean it's really easy. It's really easy. And it's like actually helping your team, you know. In a real fight it would be higher DPS than that. Because in a real fight you share the facet of nature, the assassin stance, so it's like 4 people the buff. It's actually cool. I like that build. I mean, we have a lot of like low intensity herald builds already out there. Can also go for like the higher golem. There we go. But that is a cool build. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. It's a good build. I like it. That's really cool. We have so many low intensity Revenant builds. It's actually fun. Like Revenant has probably the most amount of low intensity builds. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I make a video about it and like say Tasha is like the creator if that's okay for Tasha. It's a cool build. I mean, power, it's insane to me. Like this is a low intensity power herald build. And it reaches like, if Tasha is like doing it perfectly, like what was it, like 33k DPS? If you play Herald and you play the meta version of Power Herald, you reach, I think, 36k of Power DPS Herald, the meta version. So you reach like from low intensity being like 2 to 3 buttons to the all full-fledged rotation of 36. Like what is going on? Yeah. Yeah, you can also run shield offhand. That's true. That's true. That's cool. I like it. Really cool. That is cool. Yeah, that is a very good low intensity build. I like it. Let's try it on the long golem and just like do it. I don't have a build command. I have a builds command. You can find my YouTube and my website, of course, for all the builds. I guess sadly you cannot cast auto cast 2 attacks. That would be really cool. And you also probably want to try to finish the auto attack chain. Then you get even more DPS. Yeah, but the damage is good. The damage is good. Really good. Yeah, really nice. I mean, I will concentrate now for the rotation and then re-chat afterwards because I really want to see how high I can get it without infusions. But I think it's like pretty easy. You're using F1, your 2 skill, and the 9 skill. So essentially 3-button build, and it's like higher than, for example, Untamed with the 0-button build. It's good. Really good build. Thanks for sharing. And it's so fun that the normal Power Herald is just worse. Like, what? Or like, it's not worse, it's slightly better, but it's so little better that it's not, I would not even recommend to play the normal Power Herald. Yeah, I mean, now we get the big damage buff with the 20% below 50%. That's good. See how much we can get it up to. Yeah, looks good so far. Nice. I will try to light it on to 1%. There we go. So that we can make sure that we get the longest time on Assassin stance. And instantly swap again. And yeah, I mean, you can optimize that for sure. I think if I played it better, especially in the beginning, then that would have been a higher number for sure. I think you can get it very nice and high. If you grind it here and you really optimize it perfectly, I think you can get like to very high numbers. Like what is realistic? What did you achieve? What did you achieve as the highest? Yeah, I think 31k is like quite easily doable. I think if you play it perfectly and have the infusion, you can probably get 32k. I think that's doable. Really cool. I like the build. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing. Okay, so let's answer some more questions. What do you think of Aura Alacrity Tempest? I mean, it's really good. Like, it's a really good build. Like, I played it earlier on stream. If you're talking about PvE, this is really good. Yeah, like, look at this build. Yeah, this build here, you don't play it with staff. You play it with Dagger Warhorn. And then I play one shout, bam, 6 boons. So this is insanely strong and it heals. It's like really, really good. Like, this is such a good build, really underrated. You can play it with a staff, but with staff it's a little bit like you lose on agency, you have some ranged healing, but you have not enough, like, you have less auras, you have more stability uptime, but that's pretty much it. So I would say for 99% of the cases, it's better to go with Dagger Warhorn. But I think it's really good, really underrated. Yeah, it's you press the 9 skill, the 2 skill, and the F1. That's it. Yeah, so 3 skills. Do you think it's harder to upkeep quickness or on Harbinger than Ritualist? I think upkeeping quickness on Ritualist is nowadays easier than before. Ritualist got changed in a way that you now have a bit more the freedom with the boon duration. So that is like, or at least the build changed with like boon duration and stuff. So I think Ritualist is, both of them are not that good because, like, for example, I'm playing here Alacrity to this person, yeah? Which is like really high range. Like 600 range is really, really high for Alacrity and quickness. If you play Harbinger or Ritualist, you effectively only get like quickness in this radius. It's pretty small. And Ritualist does it in a big burst, whereas Harbinger does it like consistently. So I think personally Harbinger is a bit better because you go here and you apply it again. If you are the Ritualist and you use your combo here, and then you go here and stand there for the next like 10 seconds, they will not get any quickness. The Harbinger applies it rather consistently, so I personally think Harbinger is easier to upkeep quickness than on Ritualist, because Ritualist is one mistake and your subgroup will not have quickness for the next 15 seconds. So I personally would say both of them not ideal. It's way easier to upkeep quickness on a Herald or upkeep quickness on like a Tempest here. But, oh, not quickness, Alacrity this is here. But still, I personally would say if you like both of them, probably I would prefer Harbinger nowadays. Yeah, maybe that's just me, but that's my opinion. Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously you have to adjust the rotation to real situations. Yeah, that is true. Makes sense. Makes sense. Thanks for sharing, Tasha. Really appreciate it. Do you have videos going over the acquisition of like relics and stuff? This is actually really interesting. So I made always when the new relics launched. So for example, Visions of Eternity came out, and like let's say we have a new relic, and the relic is, for example, let's say, I don't know, Relic of the Pirate Queen, as we heard it earlier. And I make a video about it where I talk about how this relic functions and why I think it's good or bad. So this is always when a new relic comes out. This is the first part of the video. And the second part of the video, I talk about how to get this relic. So I would say in the last 1.5 years, I covered every single new relic in that way. So you can watch all those videos. They are still, so to say, up to date, how to get this relic and how it functions. If you're talking specifically about the older relics that were released before then I don't have a video about it, but you can ask here and I can tell you how to get it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Ritualist, in my opinion, I agree. Ritualist is better as a quick DPS than Harbinger is, because it has more utility. But if you're specifically asking about the quickness uptime, I think Harbinger has better situational quickness uptime. But Ritualist is better because it shares stability, it has like projectile destruction, it has teleport, it has so much utility based in the kit that it's just better. Yes, that is true. That is true. But the damage is like surprisingly high on Power Harbinger, Power Quickness Harbinger, and Condi Quickness Harbinger. I personally like Harbinger more. I think Ritualist is boring. I'm not the biggest Ritualist fan. But that might just be me, you know. That might just be me. So. What are the best raid builds that also work well in open world? In general, the answer to that is always Celestial builds. Like Celestial healer builds are really good in raids as the offensive healer. So for example, Celestial Tempest, Celestial Skirts, Celestial Firebrand. Those are extremely good, Celestial Spectre. But you can easily use them in open world as well, because they work in a meta event, but they also work in a solo situation. My favorite here is Tempest out of those, because Tempest actually can be adjusted with just a one trade line swap and actually achieve a lot of damage in a solo situation, and can be the really good healer in a group situation. But you can always, like, I would say, like, a lot of builds that are quickness DPS or alacrity DPS work very well in open world and solo gameplay if they can bring a little bit of like healing in there, because they already provide some wounds to themselves. Scrapper is insanely good for that, exactly, because quickness Scrapper provides quickness and a lot of barrier and a lot of might. It's extremely good to play, but there are so many of them. So I think like almost every wound DPS build is really well suited for a good solo build in open world. Of course, you need some healing there. So some builds are better, like Scrapper with barrier, than others. Like Harbinger, Quickness Harbinger is really like reliant on others, because otherwise you just fall over because you're so squishy. But in general, I think like if you want to have one build, role, whatever, that you want to play in raids and in open world, then it's probably some kind of offensive support. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Do you have any advice for someone that wants to learn how to make their own builds? I mean, we can. I wanted to craft some builds today, so we will just go over my thought process, how to craft the build, and maybe it will come out as a good build, maybe not, but you at least see how I craft some builds. So I was going for like a solo Willbender build. That's what I wanted to do. I found that Power Reaper with some trade skill adjustment can carry you through most of the open world. Yeah, Reaper is really good for that as well. I feel you, Demo. I feel you. That's obviously not good if your builds got hit. That's always a bit sad, but what can you do, you know? What can you do? Okay, so what do I want? some free template. Oh my god. My templates are all used. Which one do I overwrite? Yeah, so I guess we take this one and solo Willbender new, because I already have an old version and I want to see if I can make a stronger new version today, and then we will see what comes out of it. So I will start, of course, with Willbender, and then we'll see what traits we want to select. So I was thinking about either we go power or condi. So that's always the starting point. What do I want? What is the build supposed to fill which role? And I have, like, there are two options that you can go for. You can say, okay, I want to play a condi Willbender or power Willbender. And in solo play, one of the best things you can do is just equip celestial stats, and then you already are like almost covered. The problem is, I personally am not the biggest fan of like always putting celestial on everything, because then the build is like almost already solved. But at the same time, if I go for a power based Willbender build, I think like it wouldn't be as exciting. You know, what would a power-based Willbender do? Like, it would just be like a greatsword spear Willbender probably, and with radiance, I guess. I mean, let's go for a power-based one and see how it goes. You know, let's do that and see how it goes. I'm not completely sure how we would upkeep quickness though, because quickness would be very important. And if we go for Pirate Queen Relic, we would lose a lot. And you see already my thought process. I have some ideas. I want to get some quickness. So, okay, I go for Pirate Queen Relic. And then what would I choose? Probably I would go for like some Berserker gear and maybe some Fireworks rune to get some boon duration. And then I would probably think, okay, what if it's a power build, what weapons would I use? Then I would go for like Greatsword and Spear, because those are just the best power build weapons right now. Yeah, exactly. And then I would go for like Berserker, and then what would be like the option here? Probably like maybe accuracy, and maybe no, I think strength is better because we cannot upkeep. I don't know. We will have to see strength and let's say like force on a solo build. You know, it's just thinking out aloud. You know, and then on spear we definitely want celerity sigil for more quickness, or do we? Yeah, I guess we need more because we don't have that many CCs yet in the kit. Then I guess we need the Litany of Wrath for the healing skill to get a nice heal. What would be the last thing here? We could go strength again and see how it goes. That's all Berserker, should be good. And then with resolution, we get to 75, and then if we get Fury, we should be good. We just need Fury then. How do we get Fury? I guess we go for the power trait here, and triggered virtue effects now grant might to nearby allies in addition to the previous boons. Gain Fury when activating Rushing Justice. Yeah, that's pretty good. That will cover the Fury almost instantly. So that's like how I think, you know, I have some issues to solve. How do I get quickness? How do I get might and Fury? How do I get defensive boons? How do I get healing? And then I go from there and theory craft around it while still keeping up my damage. This is one way to address how do I go with like creating a build. But you can also go the other way and say, okay, I have a build that I already know works. For example, I have a DPS Willbender build from Snowcrows, and I want to use it in a solo situation. What can I change in the gear, in the traits, in the skills to actually make it work in solo play? Both directions work. You just have to understand how the, so to say, path is looking like. Yeah, hope that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, this is like, if you don't take that, you know, I really like this trait. I think that's the most fun trait on Willbender because it just makes you spam your attacks more often. But the problem is, if you take that one, you lose the pretty like solid choices here with protection or with like Fury uptime. So we have to see if I can get Fury any other way, but I think like you have some issues to get Fury any other way if you want to do that. Like we go for the power traits here with like the virtuous activation. And doesn't really matter the others here, last one. I guess we can go for that one. Stun break on our F3, I guess. And I guess that one covers Fury actually. Gain Fury on a Steiger 4 that has burning over the threshold. I think we can upkeep that. Then we can go for the top one then, yeah. And we don't need that one to be honest, because we've got power. I think those are the traits. Let's look at the utility skills. We want to go probably like very aggressive here and see how it goes. Like really, really aggressive. Yeah, let's try it like that. I mean, we don't have that much CC. That's the only issue that I have here. Maybe we go for more CC here. Perform a quick attack. That would be probably the best option to get some more quickness here. But it's so useless otherwise than that. You see what is always my thought process. What can I pick that has multiple like reasons to be picked? So for example, this one here is really good Sword of Justice because it upkeeps a lot of vulnerability and does a lot of damage. Then my healing skill is set in stone because I want to heal from that. And then you have the heal crack, I guess, for more quickness. Let's see how it goes. Yeah. Do I really overcap? Because I think, do I overcap? Like I have like, when I'm Radiance, I get 25% crit rate while I have Resolution. And then I need Fury. I guess we can just see with our boons quickly, get all the boons on and see where we are. But you see, I'm not like with all the boons, I'm still not at 100%. Why is that actually? What is the reasoning here? Normally I would be. No, I think it's... With Fury and Resolution? Thanks, Shadens. Really appreciate it. Welcome, welcome. Glad you're enjoying the stream. Yeah, we are just Fury crafting a solo power Willbender build. Let's see if we can make it work. How to bring people to PvP? I actually have a video already planned for the week. It's not exactly that, but it's pretty close. So stay tuned for that one, Tasha. Stay tuned. It will be interesting. Ah, yeah, true. You have the 7% against burning foes. Where is it? Is it here? There is a minor trait or something that gives you that. Yeah, there, exactly. It attacks the burning foes with a 10% higher chance to critically hit. Yeah, that one is it. I was wondering why I didn't get it. Yeah, okay. 10% more here. That is enough, so you can put a little bit more dragon pieces in, I guess, but not too many actually. So I guess we go for like the amulet and see that is the biggest stat gain that we get. Yeah, we're then at 90%. That's where we want to be. But I don't have that much like health. I think I'm a bit scared, to be honest, like to play a solo build with like very low health with no toughness and the only healing skill being Litany of Wrath. I think this does probably a lot of damage. But I'm not sure if it's like, I don't know if you can actually play that in like a solo situation very well. So let's see, what the food do we have? Power food, yeah, okay. Let's see. And I mean, it does damage and it has nice vulnerability uptime. Yeah, I mean, I like the build. I think we could get a little bit more might. And I mean, the healing is obviously very reliant on my healing skill. If I don't have that one, I would probably completely fall over. And I have no alacrity. So maybe going for the alacrity trait would be better, but then I lose a lot of damage nonetheless. And that's, you see the problem here. This is why I really think like power builds in open world, in solo situations are not bad and they're really good for easy content. But as soon as it gets harder and the fight goes longer or you need healing or all of that, you're just like, this is like not bad. I didn't obviously not do a really good rotation, but it's not bad. And you can go for Valor. Yeah, I thought about that as well. But then you lose like so many damage multipliers. 10%, 5 plus 5%. Then you get here the resolutions really nicely. I don't know. And then you have here the bonus per boon on you, which is also like 5% or like 3%. So it's actually, you lose a lot of stuff if you go for like more defensive. And this was like now without using my healing skill and stuff like that. So I'm actually like, I think a power-based will bender for solo PvE is like only working in really easy fights. As soon as it gets hard, then it's not that good. I think I agree with Tasha. I think it's better to go for Luminary because it has more self-defense aspect in the kit than Willbender. I think Willbender, you really have to bite into the boring apple and say, okay, we're going Celestial, and we are like just saying, okay, we are the boring guys, we're going Celestial, we go Trapper, and we just accept our fate and play a full-fledged Condi Willbender and play that one, and it has insane amount of survivability and defenses. And you still take the Pirate Queen Relic and you go for like probably like pistol for some nice CC, and then you probably go on Eggs and a Torch, and you like are already like, that's like really like the build crafting here is way easier. We will see how much damage we do there, and we have way more survivability. We will have to see how good it is. Frailty is probably the way to go on one of the weapons each. And really boring build, very old school build. I guess we just get more quickness now, or we get quickness now because we have like the Pirate Queen Relic. And what do we take to get more CC? We have 1 CC here, we have 1 CC here, and this CC. Do we want more CC than that? Guess Whirling Wrath is quite good. Could also go for Alacrity if we wanted to get all the boons. Let's just do that. Condi Willbender, yep. Could also go for this one here to get even more healing output. Just go for all the burning skills now. We just completely swap around. Fury we still want, so I guess that makes sense. And I guess we go for... We could actually go Glacial Heart, which is so funny because we can take that and get some nice healing from that. If you disable a foe, you get some healing. So that could be a way to actually deal damage, but I think this is just still good on a Celestial build. Duration increase on your Purging Flames makes sense. You could go now for Signet of Resolve because it's just a really good heal still and gives you more Condi Cleanse passively, I guess. And yeah, let's go for the more like balanced setup here with like defenses and stuff. And then the damage will be lower for sure, at least in the beginning. But if the fight goes long enough, I think it will be higher than the other one, and it has way more sustain. So let's try it, like classic setup with strength and with frailty. And we have, I guess, some CC to upkeep the quickness. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, you could go Balthasar Rune. I thought about it. The problem is if you go Balthasar Rune, you lose some uptime on your, like... The issue is, like, you have some vulnerability application as well, and you actually like to have, like, more boon duration, condition duration, so I think that could be good, but I think you're right. It's really like you have almost no other condition than burning. Let's go for that one, and you will already be kept, yeah. That would be good, yeah. Makes sense. Good suggestion. Yeah, you could also go for Tempest Rune. Yeah, let's see. What is the difference with Tempest Rune again? Yeah, that could actually be like not bad. That is true. How much is the 25% Condi duration? Brings me at 90. Okay. I want really, 100 is like really a must. So I would probably run like some kind of like maybe fishy rice balls to increase my damage here. But then you don't get the defenses, you know. You really want to, in a solo build, you really want to have this like really nice minus 10% incoming damage. That's just so good. Like this is such a good food here. You could also go for the Celestial version of it. Probably even better. Going for like the Celestial version here with like minus 10% and to all attributes. That's probably the best. But then we need to solve the issue here with like the condition duration. Not sure how we would solve that. Yeah, I think Balthasar might be better in this situation. Then you would not have to go for any other duration anymore. Just go for burning and say that that's good enough. And maybe you could even put in instead of some celestial pieces, and could go maybe some sinister pieces to get a bit more damage out, because you don't need insane amount of survivability. You could go for sinister weapons or something, which give no expertise, but give you more like aggressiveness. Could go for that, because we would still at the 100% burning duration. That could be okay, because like I said, you don't need to go for full celestial if you can survive with that. Go a bit more aggressive throughout. Yeah, let's try it like that and maybe put down our celestial food. See how that one goes. And of course the normal food. See how that looks. Yeah. There is a burn sigil, yeah. You can go for burning, 20% more burning duration. But the problem is you already are at like 100% because of all your traits and stuff. So going for the smoldering sigil, which is the burning sigil here, would give me 20% burning duration. So a lot of value. But I'm already at 100%. So right now I would have to decrease my defenses just to go and get less condition duration and take the sigil, but I would also not get the strength and frailty, which are vulnerability, huge damage increase on celestial builds, and you would lose the strength, which is also again a huge damage increase on celestial builds. So I personally am really like, for me, it really looks like it makes the most amount of sense to go with this setup. Let's test it, just let's see how it goes. I will not like have any crazy rotation or anything. I will just like look at it and see how it goes and put out my damage here and see just how much I can put out. Yeah, you see this the strength is really like the issue. It's really the strength. I don't have enough might generation. So how do we get more might? If we would have more might and if I played the rotation better, that would be probably also good. Sigil of Strength is already on there. It's already on there. I guess we could go and go, for example, for... we could go for the cheesecake instead of this food, which gives me like might on critical hit. That could be good. Or we just adjust some traits to get more might, I guess. Is there any good trait that gives us more? I mean, this is like not as good on Celestial. That would instantly solve a lot of issues here. Relic of Mistburn. I mean, the problem is with Relic of Mistburn, you just lose the quickness. Like quickness on us, like nowadays, before like Visions of Eternity came out, I would agree, like sometimes you don't need quickness. But on solo builds after Visions of Eternity, not having quickness is like grieving. Because on the solo build, you want this 50% damage buff. It's just too good. And Willbender doesn't have access to it normally. So this is just like, you really, really want to have that. Okay, I think we need some strength. We really need some strength. Yeah, Celestial Herald, that makes sense. You know, that makes sense because you have quickness other ways, but Willbender doesn't have any other way of getting quickness. So, yeah. Is there any other trade line? No, Seal is not it. Honor is not it. Valor is not it. Yeah, I think we are locked into those trade lines. And I think we have to think about where we can get some more like boons. Maybe we just go for that one. And we can go for Tyrant's Momentum and lose the Alacrity. I didn't use the Alacrity in this setup anyway. Could be good, but it would be so fun to have all the boons, you know. I really like to have all the boons all the time. Let's try that. 80% burn damage? Yeah, it's like very high. It's 70% burn damage. Yeah. There's some bleeding as well because we are running like the aches and the pistols. But still. What's the best solo build for Elementalist? It's Immortal Catalyst. You play Scepter, Warhorn, Catalyst is extremely good. Yeah. Okay, so let's try it again with the other trait. Let's see how it goes now. And I think we start on Pistol. I think that's better. And let's go for that and let's see how it goes. And get some Alacrity now. I mean, just like I'm coming up with the rotation here on the fly. I really would not say that this is like something that you should follow closely here. But I think it's like, it's okay now. We see the damage increase is definitely there, 20k. And the sustain is obviously also way better than the power-based build. I mean, I think you can say this is like, this is okay. This is okay for a solo build. Now test this in a yeah, 20.6. And I mean, if the thing is that we could test if that's better, if we could like drop one of the frailty sigils maybe and go for torment sigil, because one of the things that is like very underrated is like how good torment sigil is. Like it's really like, it gives so much damage, torment sigil. Yeah, you could also do firefield blasting, but the problem is like what kind of blast finishers do you have? You don't have that many. Like Guardian doesn't have like a lot of blast finishers if you don't run certain weapons. And I don't want to like invest too much into that. You could go for battle sigil, yeah. I guess that's a good point. How is the might uptime? The might was covered with this setup now. I think it's actually good. I think that is more fire. Yeah, maybe. I think we could swap one of the sigils for instead of frailty and go for torment sigil and check how the damage is then. Because torment sigil gives you 2 stacks of torment for 5 seconds, and then the burn like duration increase here. Upon handling a critical hit, that is actually a decent damage increase. Let's test it over one of the frailty sigils. Let's test it again, 20.5 to beat with just one sigil swap. Okay, let's see. Obviously a little bit of a different opener here. Not a good one at this, but okay. Let's see. I mean, always in solo builds, that's why I'm not always like going too hard on the rotation, because in a solo build, you typically will alter the rotation anyway, because there will be some adjustments to be made. I think the vulnerability is definitely somewhat noticeable that I'm not having it permanently, but the damage is higher now, even with my scuffed rotation. So there's that. Yeah, it's definitely higher. 21.1 now at the end. The Guild Wars 2 thing says 21.5. So that's like higher for sure. I think that's a plus. Yeah. The air sigil works perfectly fine with like how it is the best possible way is how the air sigil interacts with it, but keep in mind the air sigil is not as good as a lot of people think it is, because the air sigil gives you like just a lightning strike every 3 seconds, which is not bad, but it's just one strike every 3 seconds. So in this build, it's definitely worse in a Celestial setup, maybe in a power build, but not this one. Yeah. It's definitely the gloves or the amulet. They are really nice to get. The Prismatic Regalia or the Fractal gloves. Those are the 2 best legendaries to get. Yes. Welcome, Poco, welcome. If there's a weight class you would choose to create a legendary set, what would it be and why? So I think like I would either go for light armor, because you have the most amount of build variety in light armor classes, and then you can make the most use out of your light armor legendary. Or you go for heavy armor, I would say, because heavy has, so to say, a lot of builds across all game modes that are really good. Like you will always have good World versus World Guardian builds. You will always have good Guardian builds in PvE. You will also can make a lot of use from legendary armor on Revenant and even Warrior. So I think those 2 are the best. I think medium is a little bit like not as good, because medium is really like Berserker, Viper, and that's pretty much it. You know, there are some healer builds, but it's not like insanely flexible. I think the others make more use of stat swapping. Yeah, I think medium is the worst. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's pretty solid. I'm pretty happy with this. I think we can still like improve a bit, but for now that is like what I would cover here. And now I will just try it in healing. You know, with healing, I want to see how much I can outlast the damaging fields. Because I obviously have no active heals used in this. But yeah. Yeah, medium classes are, I wouldn't say scuffed, but I think they are like not as flexible as us. Welcome, Beard and Rock. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, no problem. Hope you're enjoying the Condi build. It's. I think it's a fun experiment. That is for sure. Yeah, that is for sure. I have an off-topic question still about Guild Wars 2. Please let me know when I cast. Yeah, sure. Ask now. Ask now. I'm always happy to answer some stuff. Okay, so now we have to do it a bit differently because we obviously want to go in there before we get damaged and make sure that this is like decent. I think that was not like decent enough, but okay. Get some burning out, some might up, and let's see. I mean, the passive healing could be way higher. Like the passive healing is pretty low, I have to be honest. I think we really want some more passive heals. What is a good way to get passive heals on Willbender? Because you can see I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm doing damage and stuff, but I don't have enough heals to outlast here. How can we get some healing in this build? Some more healing, you know? That's interesting. Interesting problem. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, Bogdan. Thanks a lot, Bogdan. So, a good, versatile, and easy to use healer class is probably Troubadour. I think Mesmer in general as a healer is really good, but I think Troubadour is the best and easy to use one because you spam effectively like 3 skills plus your weapon skills and that's it. So Troubadour probably one of the best and easy to use healers. Maybe with Scourge and maybe with Tempest. Those are really good, but I personally really like, I would recommend Mesmer for a healer. It's so good and flexible while being easy to learn. Troubadour is quite easy. Yeah, I would recommend that one. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But it always depends on the classes that you play. That is true. So it's not medium is like, some people say medium is really good for legendary armor, but I personally think it's not the best. Yeah. I have around 800 hours in the game. I was sitting at 360 gold when I decided to spend all of my Imperial Favor on chests, and I got an item that sold for 4,000 gold. What should I invest it in? I have 2 free legendaries and 1 piece of obsidian legendary armor. So I personally think if you play only 1 character, it can be worthwhile to invest into more bags and getting bigger bags and stuff like that. And of course, if you like skins, that can be also worthwhile. I personally would say if you play more characters, the game gets a bit more like flexible and more interesting, so I would always recommend that. If that is the case for you as well, then I personally would say the best way to get more legendaries is just helpful. Yeah, just get full legendary armor, which is really, really helpful to play on more characters. So you have 1 piece of legendary obsidian armor, so I think why not get the others? You know, that is like not too expensive and it has some nice goals for you to go for. And while you do that, because it's somewhat time gated, you can think about maybe you want to expand your bank, because having a bigger bank can always be helpful and is just like a nice quality of life. Those are really important things that I think, for me personally, I would go instantly and invest in that. Maybe get more shared inventory slots, yeah. But I personally think finishing the armor, maybe going for some trinkets as well, is really helpful. Maybe going for the spear, legendary spear, because you can use it in all classes. Those are things that are really helpful. I would not go for more legendary weapons, because those are swapped. You know, you can swap a sword for a scepter or something, and then you lose the value of the sword legendary. I would also not recommend going, for example, for runes or sigils, but I think going for legendary armor and legendary trinkets, maybe legendary spear, is extremely valuable. Yeah, hope that makes sense. That's what I would go for. Yeah. If you then don't play them fully, and if you don't want to go, for example, for like more classes that you play, then I think it gets more interesting to get the weapons that you actually like the skins of and that you use all the time. So for example, if you play, I don't know, the Power Reaper all the time and you use the Greatsword all the time, then making a legendary Greatsword can be a very, very smart thing to do. But if you play like, I don't know, Engineer and Ranger and you want to play and get a new legendary, then Greatsword would not be the best option. I hope that makes sense. Stuff like that, yeah. Yeah, shared inventory slots are quite expensive, but they are also very valuable. You know, you can like save your characters a lot of inventory space and bank space by having the best items in there. I use them there. That's my tip there. The legendary relic can be very good, but I think it's so expensive, and I think for new player I would not recommend that. Yeah, I would not convert it. Yeah, you can also get really good valuable items like Teleport to Friend, the recharging one, or like Copper Fat. I think those items are so valuable from the gem store. Like the Copper Fat, the Silver Fat, the recharging Teleport to Friend, if you do that a lot, that can be insane value. And of course, I personally would say the biggest quality of life feature you can always have in the shared inventory slot is a permanent bank access. This item is so good. Like it essentially makes my 240 slot inventory to like a, I don't know, 1000 slot inventory. It's really, really good. Yeah. That's my opinion. What is the item beside your Omnimount potion? This one. This is the Tarkon personal delivery portal, and it allows me to, obviously I could ecto gamble, I never do that, don't do that. I use it for selling. So if I have anything to sell, this will pop up here and I can sell it. And the cool part is I can use it while I'm walking. So it doesn't close like other vendors do. I can just walk and can use this. This is extremely valuable. That's why I have it. And there are other items like this, but this is the, in my opinion, very easy to acquire one. Yeah. Do you get that item, that specific one here from doing 100, I think, ecto gambles. On average, you lose like, I don't know, 700 gold or something like that. So that means that you will get this item for 700 gold. So yeah, it's an expensive item, but like you can see, I have some other expensive items in here. It's just something that makes sense. Should I be invested in the homestead nodes? Because 50 gold before looked pretty steep. I personally would say if you plan to play the game for the next 5 years, yes. If you don't do that, I would say it's not like that good. I personally don't have all the homestead node because I think it's not that worth it. Some of them will pay off in like 11 years. So no, I would say for most, don't use it. Yeah. 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 There are a lot of like items like this. I'm not saying this is the only one. This is just one that I have. There are a lot of things that work like that. But the really good part about this is that you can walk around. Some of the vendors close if you walk around. Like for example, the bank access, it will close when you walk, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, we will all be on the third game of the trilogy in 5 years. Could be, Mike. Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Have you tried Condi Tempest Hammer variant? That goes fresh air. It has nice fire, air, and earth. It has nice gameplay, but you loop. The thing is, I thought about going for that. You know, I actually thought about it when I went for the hammer variant that I showed. I think it was yesterday on the video, and I think it's a good idea to go fully Condi. The problem is, as soon as you go fully Condi, you have less of a spike. So that means that in a lot of fights, you just deal way less damage. You could see the background video that I had in this Elementalist Tempest Hammer video was I was actually almost top DPS with this hammer variant, even though it was an experimental build. If you go the Condi route, yes, it might be a bit better on the Golem, but in real fights, oftentimes it doesn't work that well. That's why I didn't go for it. If you like it though, go for it. I think your idea with Earth specifically as a trade line makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So just wanted to mention it here. Hope that makes sense. And the game is good. I like the game. It's really fun. Really good game. Yeah. Hope that makes sense, Beard and Rock. I'm a PvE player only now. Used to play structured PvP long ago. World versus World never. It doesn't interest me. And that makes sense. I mean, that is like completely fine. If it was free, give me a sec. Guild Wars 3 I'm not sure about. I'm not ready to start something from scratch and leave everything I earned in Guild Wars 2 for 13 years and to play both, kind of no time. That is fair, but I think it's not necessary, you know? If Guild Wars 3 will come out and let's say 60% of the player base of Guild Wars 2 instantly quits Guild Wars 2 and plays only Guild Wars 3, then you still have 40% of the player base that plays Guild Wars 2. So I think personally that is a good deal for ArenaNet if they get like a 10 times player spike with the new game. So I personally think it's not a problem. I know that you will not necessarily like the new game then, but I personally think it's actually not a necessary issue that ArenaNet has. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. I'm also ready to start from scratch. I really think so. I think like starting from scratch can be a boon as well. You know, it can be very nice to start from scratch and experience the game from new, learn new stuff, like grind new stuff, going for new stuff that you already had for years in Guild Wars 2, for example. I don't know, maybe. I would be up for it. Yeah, just if you have any like issues with my builds, ask me and I can answer it. Maybe I can help. Maybe we can even improve it. Yeah, just let me know. So which regions have the highest density of Guild Wars 2 players? So Europe, if you look at like some data, we know that like around 55% of the players are playing on the European servers and 45% of players are playing on North American servers. If I look at my viewership, most of my viewers on YouTube come from US and the second most come from Germany. And that's pretty much, I would also what I expect from the general player base. I think in Europe, the most amount of players are from Germany, and in America, it's mostly US. Yeah. I can't decide. I want to play quick DPS. I've always played Guardian as a main and dabbled on Herald, but I have just made Sunrise, which is I'm obsessed with using. What class would you recommend? If you want to do Sunrise as a quick DPS, you have to go with Revenant. Yeah, Herald is good with you can play a Greatsword, Sword, Herald that does a decent amount of damage and is a quick DPS. Yeah, that is good. Other than that, the best quick DPS with like a Greatsword is probably Chronomancer right now, or you could go for Ritualist. It's really good with a Greatsword. There are a lot of different ones, but if you want to stick with Guardian, I would probably say it's not the best choice because Firebrand is the only quickness provider and it's Condi. So not Greatsword user, and on Revenant it's like typically you use it on Power Conduit or Power Herald. Those two are extremely good with Power and Greatsword. Yeah. Yeah. What's the best Revenant Mesmer open world builds after the patch? I would say for Revenant it's probably like, I think Renegade is the best open world build for soloing specifically. Other than that, I think for like in group play, I think Conduit is better. And for like Mesmer, I think there are so many good ones. If you're looking specifically for soloing, I think it's still Condition Chronomancer. It's insanely good. If you're looking for open world, I think it's like probably Quickness, like Chronomancer or something like that. Yeah. Sure. For tagging, yeah, Herald is extremely good there. Yeah. I have two questions about Guardian. How can I generate Might, Fury, and Swiftness? So if you play Guardian and you want to be like generating Might consistently, then you can either do that as a healer with Staff and some traits. Let me show you. Where is it? There is one trait that provides Might here. That gives a lot of Might. Where is it? Am I stupid? Why am I Radiance on this? What am I doing? I mean, this is not the correct build, but in Honor, there is a trait here, this one, Empowering Might. That's the one that I wanted. Why is my heal elected DP? Okay, it doesn't matter. So this is really good. And this trait here gives some passive Might, and of course your Staff gives Might if you play in a group. If you're in a solo situation, you really want to like generate Might via like Strength Sigil or your Radiance trait line with like Righteous Instincts, or with Rushing Justice, stuff like that, or like the F1 skills. So Guardian Might is not the easiest, but it's doable. For Swiftness, the best Swiftness thing is Staff. Like Staff 3 generates the most amount of Swiftness. And Fury is like quite easy. You can do that with Spear 3 skill. You can do that with like Willbender attacks. And you can do that with like Sword main hand. Where is it here? Symbol. There are some ways to generate Fury, and quite a lot of them. Like Guardian has a lot of access to Fury, and Swiftness you can also go, by the way, for like Advance. Yeah. What about Sword Focus? Good option for better than Greatsword. I would say in competitive modes it's okay, but in PvE it's not good. Greatsword Spear is the best power-based option. Like Sword is worse, and Focus is way worse. Focus is like a very defensive weapon. In PvE you would never use a Focus, I would say. Yeah, sadly. How are ranged Ranger builds relevant in PvE right now? So I would say like Ranger builds are really good. Ranger range builds are not that good. There are not that many out of there. You can play like Gale Shot. Shot it earlier on stream. Gale Shot is decent as a ranged build, but it's again not like the best. There are way better builds. Like Gale Shot uses like Axe and a Longbow. That's good. But I would say for range builds, typically I would rather recommend, if you really want to play high DPS range builds, I would probably recommend like Virtuoso or Scourge even in really tough situations. Like Gale Shot is more like a bursty, squishy build. Untamed is also good, but it's not the best ranged build. Yeah, hope that makes sense. So there is a vendor in Visions of Eternity where you can get the relic, the Biomancer relic, or you can get it from World vs. World. I can show you that. Give me a second. Where you can get it from the Visions of Eternity vendor. It's, let me teleport to someone in the Visions of Eternity map, just to save some cost here. And there is a vendor where you can buy the relics in the Shipwreck Strand. And where is it? There is a vendor at some point here in the region. I think it's one of those here. Where you can buy all the relics. Yeah, here, this one. Purchase relic specific things, and then is it this one? Yeah, this one. It says relics, and then you can purchase the other ones here. It's like, it's a bit pricey, but it's okay. So this can be helpful. Yeah, hope that was the question that you are. Yeah, either way. I think that's the end of today's stream. It was a really nice stream. I think we had some nice, interesting debates and topics to cover. Thanks a lot for watching. Wish you all a very nice weekend. And yeah, hope to see you around. Take care. And I mean, we will see what the future brings. Have a nice day. See you around.